Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland live. It's the first one of the season. We're back and tonight I am joined by, first up, he's the big-lipped hippopotamus that is partial to cheesy biscuits. It's Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
And I must admit, we are breaking new ground, the first naked Arsenal podcast.
You're not.
I'm completely naked.
You're not.
Yes.
Oh, could you put some pants on or something?
I put them on my head. No,
Really?
it's a hot day. I'm sitting here completely. No, I'm not. I've got trousers on.
I was going to say, we were nearly less than a minute into the season and you nearly made me say the C word.
No, we won't be saying that at all. We've had our mouths washed out with soap by FK. Oh, they don't know he's here, do they?
No, they don't.
Come round to my mouth and he's washed our mouths out with soap, so we don't have potty language.
Yeah, could nobody else say that FK's here before?
Yeah, don't give it away.
Because I don't want to give it away to the good listeners.
No.
Right then, we've got so many members of the ABW 11 tonight. You really are spoilt for choice, so I won't give them their specific intros, but I will just say we have Kate. Hello, Kate.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, I'm all right. Are you having fun?
What, sat down here waiting to start listening to you mumble on about nothing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
Well, I shall move on then. And again, it's Geoff Arsenal. Hello, Geoff. How's the summer treated you?
Yeah, bang on, Gim. Very well, thank you. And yeah, summer's been really good for me. Busy, but you know what? It's funny, really, because it seems to have gone slow. Maybe it's because we've not had no summer tournaments with regard to Euro Championships or international tournaments, but it seems to have dragged on. I know we've had bits and pieces we could watch, but it's been a drag for me, so I'm really looking forward to the season now.
See, I found it's gone really quick. I don't know why. Probably because I've not got 5 minutes to think. But no, it seems that the summer seems like mental. That 12 weeks ago we were saying that we weren't going to be back for ages and doing our final podcast, and here we are. It's mad, really. But I shall move on. Next up, joining us is Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Backstreet's back, all right, Gimli. How are you doing?
Oh, Backstreet is definitely back. Park 5.
Oh, good to hear it.
Me and Kate released a Periscope in your honour today.
I gather. What was this all about? I know it's in the WhatsApp group, but I'm far too important to take too much attention to that. What happened?
Basically, we were having a day out today, so Kate decided that we were going to do a Periscope when Park Life came on the CD, on the USB stick in the car. So you've got me driving along singing Park Fife.
I feel honoured.
Yeah, I mean, you should be. I mean, I'm not going to have a meltdown.
I appreciate that. It's good to know that you've been thinking about me through this dry, barren spell of non-football time. So,
to be honest with you, I've thought about you all summer. I've genuinely that 3-week period when you lost your phone or had it stolen or whatever it was, I cried every night.
I'm tussled with euphoria and near-death experiences most days, missing you, Gimli too.
Do you know what? I'm erect just to hear that. Right, we shall move on. Next up, joining me is Kris. Hello, Kris.
Hello, Gimli. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. How's the summer treated you with Pirates? I hear you have a couple of wins under the belt in pre-season already.
Well, I didn't want to mention it, but yes.
Oh, fuck off! You so were going to mention it.
Didn't start well, to be honest, mate. We had a brilliant win the first one, then we had like 2 or 3 that were terrible, and now we're back on song. So, yep, three straight wins, 2 clean sheets, back-to-back clean sheets, I should add. But yeah.
And you'll be keeping us up to date with the Pirates scores throughout the season, the highs and many lows I'm sure you'll have.
I got a sneaky little feeling there might be a few more highs and lows this year, mate. But either way, I will not hide. I shall face the Carpenter out taunts, and yes, I shall be here in full living colour, giving you updates every week. So,
do you think that this is your year, and maybe at the end of it you might have the right to sign another 2-year deal, or do you think that you're going to cut ties with the club and move abroad?
Well, you know me, mate. I'm a man of the people. If they want me to stay, then I'll be here for them. But naturally, the swell of Carpenter out chance could get to me. So it's going to be a tough season. But we're pushing hard for the 4th place trophy, and anything above that will be a bonus. So who knows? We'll do our best to entertain you all as we go.
Some wise words, ladies and gentlemen. Right then, I think it's time to announce not the special guest because he's going to be here a little bit more this season. but making his long overdue return. It's the man with the voice like chocolate. Say hello, Mr. Carnage.
Hello, hello.
And you can confirm to the good listeners that they're gonna hear you a bit more this season. I know it's very much gonna be you come to us when you're available on a Thursday night, and we will bang you live on the podcast on the lineup. Not bang you live on the podcast, of course. No, definitely not.
I would love to be on as much as I can. I've really missed it. It's really good to be back. I've had quite an incredible year, actually. 2 FA Cups, I got engaged, had a baby nephew, changed jobs, moved house. It's been a pretty crazy 12 months, 14 months of my life. But
and you've topped it all off by re-signing with ABW, where it all began.
It all began, absolutely.
The founder member.
Yeah, well, one of the team. So I'm really looking forward to being back as much as I can. Hopefully, I've got a bit more stability in my job, so I'll be able to join you guys more often. So it's really good to be back.
Well, I'm sure the listeners are as over the moon as we are. When I asked you the other day, and you said that you maybe do a little bit more for us, and we'd play it by ear as to your appearances. Everyone on the panel was absolutely over the moon. You should have seen just the feedback that we've had on Twitter over the last, week or a couple of days since we've announced it. Everyone's so pumped to have you back as part of the team, and I'm sure, like me, I can't wait to hear your views throughout the season on hopefully what will be, or what will turn out to be, a successful trophy winning season.
I hope so, Gim, but you guys are too kind with your words, so thank you. It means a lot.
No, it's a pleasure, mate, as always. Yes.
We haven't announced that FK is taking shirt number 1. And why is that, FK?
Oh, Danny, you get. Well, I just thought, I wanted 69 given my past misdemeanors, but I understand Kate took that. So I thought, well, yeah, number 1.
Did she
calm.
now?
Yeah, she did.
She definitely did.
I guess I'm just calm and assured, and yeah, number 1, safe hands, I guess. So,
he's the podcast David Seaman. You have to grow a moustache in appreciation of your squad number.
I shall try.
Does everybody else remember their squad numbers?
7.
Number 8.
I'm number 98. This is my favourite season, and my offspring was born. 5, what was your number?
I think I was number 11.
And
that's 2 lines. That's what it is.
And Geoff, what number are you, Geoff?
I'm the big number 9, I think, aren't I, mate?
Yeah. Somebody said the unlucky Arsenal number 9, but you're going to put a stop to that, aren't you?
Well, not much pace, but got plenty of quick feet and plenty of quality on the ball, Dano.
Lovely. Right then, Gimli, off we go.
What was it? Sorry, does our beautiful listenership know about the present we gave them as well?
What did we give them?
I know the number 12 shirt. We rested the number 12 for you, the fans and the listeners, because you're our 12th man.
And woman.
And woman.
Yeah, and animal. If there's any animals listening.
Have we got anyone listening, Dan?
We have an astounding 183 people watching. The most we've ever had. It was about 125, and then the radio show broke their record as well for their first one of the season. So keep tweeting it, letting people know we're on air. And also we retired the number 10 because I wanted that because that's my favourite number. But we thought, no, I was told, no, that's Bergkamp. Bergkamp, you have number 10. So if you're listening, Mr. Bergkamp, you ever want to come on, you let us know. We'll slip you in.
Yeah, give Gimli a tickle and I'll have you right on the show.
Yes.
I should say as well before we start, everyone will know that we've been running the donate button with the competition prizes of a lovely day out with Geoff and Raj, and there's shirts to give away. And
what game is it for?
It's Stoke, isn't it, Geoff?
Yeah, Stoke City, it certainly is. And
at the Emirates.
To that. Yeah, I think we've got some club levels lined up. And club level seats, we're going to have maybe some food beforehand, and we shall ply whoever wins with some alcohol once we get in the stadium.
That is Saturday the 12th of September, 3 o'clock kick-off. You have to make your own way there, your own way back. So what we're going to do in between now and the week, because we were going to do it now, but we're not. We want to do it live, like the Pirates did their draw, which was brilliant because it's a random number generated from an internet program, so there's no chance of fix. So what you need to we're going to email every single person who is eligible for the main prize in the week to see if you can make it to that game on that day. If you reply, you will be in the draw. If if you don't reply or you can't make that, then you'll be in the draw for just the shirts and the other stuff. And the people who got the competition question right, you will be in the draw for all the old ABW junk that we didn't want. So everybody's still got a chance. But everybody, if you donated money, please look out for an email from the Bergkamp Wonderland at gmail.com, and please reply to that as soon as possible to let us know if you can make it to the game under your own steam, because we're not playing for first-class flights from middle of nowhere.
And is that now closed, or if anybody wants to enter the draw that's listening that's not
they still can.
Entered, okay?
Yeah, they still can. But the free competition, that's it, that's closed. You can't enter that by answering the questions from the Pod 100.
Okay, so basically, if they go on our website, where are they going to find that on our website, Danny?
The donation button, if you look at the main website, you will see there's a banner at the top with home, podcast, future shows. The second one down, next to ABW Awards and Contact Us, donations, and you can chuck us money via a gift via PayPal. Then we don't get any PayPal fees. Nobody really has to, because we've had just over 750 quid. Now, that's got Gimli one half of a boob job. Now, if you want him to get the other half, then you can chuck some more. But we really don't need any more money. You lot have been more than generous. That's paid for the URL name, the bergkampwonderland.co.uk. That's bought that until 2021. It's paid for the hosting for this year and next year. A load of the ABW radio people have had new headsets and webcams. I've had a new keyboard, a new mouse, which is why you can't hear me clicking away. And SoundCloud. We've just paid the SoundCloud. That was £75. Akshay paid for that because he said, how much is it? And so he chucked us all the money for that. And so you lot have been really generous. So we don't need any more money, but if you want to be in it, it's got to be a minimum of £5. You can't enter it for £1, and then some people have donated loads and then mug them off, and you send us 1p and then you win it. So it's got to be a minimum of £5. But we really don't need it. But if whatever we don't use this season, we will use for next season. So then next season we might not need to have a donations thing up.
Have you taken into consideration your allocation of cheddars, Daniel?
I'm wheat intolerant, Geoff, so I've had to avoid them, and I'm on a diet as well because I've been on the steroids for 4 months. So I'm all well good. I've had all the last 2 years of podcasts. All I've done is moan about my aches and pains. People, I am cured thanks to the NHS. I have no more aches or pains. I'm perfectly fine.
It's early season, though, Dan. It's early season.
Well, there is that. I could get a knock. I could do a wheelchair.
Right, let's get back to business then, fellas. We're rambling.
Yes.
Right, we'll start off then by talking about Arsenal's pre-season games. Kris, we'll go to you, and I want to know what you thought of the Asia tour. What did you make of that?
The bat. Barclays Asia Trophy. Yeah, it was kind of fun, wasn't it? It was. It looked pretty warm, pretty intense, and quite an in and out job, which is a little bit unusual for us. We usually tend to sort of spend a bit of time over there and play 3 or 4 games, but just the 2 quick games in and out. I think it was excellent to see some of the youngsters and see some of the future talent. It was the first time we debuted the kit as well, which was always nice. And I think they did the release of the away kit launch, and it was in Singapore at the time, so that was quite nice for the fans over there to get to meet some of the heroes and whatnot. So all in all, it was a success. The games themselves, the Singapore Select 11 weren't sort of up to too much from what I can gather. Fitness kind of killed them in the end, and we took over. A few first team players mixed in with some of the youth team, which was good to see. Beating Everton was really good to see, because it wasn't just the scoreline, but the intensity impressed me. We looked pretty sharp. We looked like you could drop us into a Premier League game 3 days later and we'd be ready to go, which if you look at some of the other teams, Chelsea, around sort of Europe or around Premier League in particular, some of their pre-seasons, they've looked a little bit leggy and a little bit kind of stagnant, whereas we look fresh, ready to go, and hey, it's a trophy. It's part of our pre-season treble. We can all retire now. We've won the treble, so that's it. We're done. And it's, as I say, pre-season. It's such a difficult time because there's so many. You've got so much to do in such a short space of time. And the other good thing about the Asia Trophy is we didn't come back with any injuries. I know we'll touch on that a bit later, but all in all, a success. And happy with how it all went.
Yeah, fantastic. Some will argue that you keep pre-season simple. Geoff, I'll come to you next. The fact that we've gone to Singapore when before we went to places like Austria, for instance, for our pre-season tours, how much of a difference does that make to the overall fatigue to the players? Do you think it can be managed correctly? And is it just a fact of going out there and taking Arsenal to the masses and making a little bit of money in the process?
Well, it's purely commercial. Arsene Wenger's gone on record in saying that he'd rather go to Austria, like he has done for many seasons, and do a good pre-season out there with a couple of games involved as well. But you have got to to keep up with these. Pardon me. To keep up with the other clubs, I mean, it's a global game now. You really do need to get out and go to these far places and try and generate the support, and that obviously gives you the commercial awareness. And I mean, it can only be good for Arsenal. It's not the best thing. It's not the best preparation, but at the same time, it's good for bonding. They get out there, they're together again. And it's great for the fans that are overseas fans that get a chance to see us live in the flesh. That's the main thing.
Definitely so. And FK, who really stood out for you over the two games? I mean, it was a fantastic blend of youth and what we've already got in the team. I think Zelalem played well. Iwobi was quite good as well. There was lots of things to be positive about, but who stood out for you?
Well, I think first and foremost, obviously, pre-season is just about getting your fitness and trying to get some sharpness and some, build that camaraderie, like Geoff was saying, just going abroad and building that kind of team spirit. And I think that's really clear to see because there's not been much change in that. But in terms of performances, I think Akpom scored a hat-trick, didn't he, in the first game? And he's obviously been loaned out. We'll be talking about loans later on. But it was great to see Petr Cech in goal make his debut in the second game. And like Kris says, the second game against Everton, it showed that we were sharp. It showed that actually, given if there were a Premier League game to be played 3 days straight after, we probably could have given it a good go because we looked quite fit, we looked quite sharp. I think in terms of individual performances, it's really difficult to say, but encouraging that the team seemed quite fluid. They picked up where they left off. It's good to see the players look a little leaner, they look a little stronger. But I can't really pick out any individuals. I think everyone kind of did their bit. They did what they had to. The Emirates Cup we'll talk about shortly. You could probably identify a few more individual performances, but and even Chelsea. But for me, it was just more of a team kind of exhibition. It was just good to get the win under our belts.
Definitely so. And Kate, in the end, we ended up bringing the trophy home. I think clubs like Man City and Chelsea have won it previously. As a fan, what did it mean winning the cup to you? Was it anything to write home about? Was it anything you got excited about, or was it was pre-season? They've got a little bit of a reward for going over there. It was commercially, it was a good move. Was it just good for you?
Any cup's a good cup. I didn't actually see any of it, so I can't really comment too much on it. But do you know what? Cup's a cup, and I'm always happy that Arsenal win a cup.
No, definitely so. I do agree with you. We'll go to Andrew next. Do you think we learned anything from this, from going over there and playing these games? Do you think it was a nice chance for Arsenal fans to see who's coming through the ranks, who's going to be about the first team? I know there was a player, Adelaide. He seemed to get a lot of the fans talking as well. I think Arsene Wenger made a few comments about him after the game. It was just positive, wasn't it?
I think the whole going abroad and going to the Far East is a positive story for the club in terms of we're opening out our global franchise and we're really giving a touch point to the the global fan base, which is fantastic. I think I'm slightly cynical now. We've been going abroad and going to the Far East for 2-3 years, and I think we always get really carried away with young players. As a couple of years ago, we were talking about Thomas Eisfeld being the next big thing, and then he got let go to Fulham. We've done the same with Miachi, where Zelalem never really broke through when people were saying he was better than Fabregas at that age. So I don't get too carried away by players having a good pre-season. I think that fans put far too much pressure on players after they've had 1 or 2 good games. If we look at the Asia Cup, obviously Akpom had a fantastic match. People were some people said he was better than Giroud, and then 2 weeks later in the Emirates Cup he had a not so good game, and people were saying he needs to be sold immediately or loaned out and he's not good enough. So I think too much emphasis is put on the performance. I think we just need to take it with a pinch of salt. It's a good way to get fitness back. It's a good showcase for some of the young guns and a chance for them to play alongside some of the senior players. But for me, most importantly, it's an outlet for the club to continue to develop its brand and to give back to the fans across the world. And I wouldn't look too much into the performance of specific young players, particularly. and likewise, I wouldn't criticise them too harshly when they don't perform.
No, I agree. We'll move on to the Emirates Cup then in the next leg of our pre-season. I know there was a few of us there, wasn't there? Geoff, did you go?
Yes, I certainly did. Well, it was a fantastic. The opening game was brilliant, wasn't it? We had I think it was about a 20-minute spell where we scored 5 or 6 goals. We won 6-0 in the end. 6 different goal scorers, which is amazing, really, isn't it? You know, and you know they're a decent European team, Leon. So you know it was. We totally blew them away. They had nowhere to go, Leon. It was a fantastic performance, and that took us on to the second day, the Wolfsburg match, when we was all surprised by the young lad called Geoff Rain Adelaide. I don't know what you guys think. I mean, but he was sensational, wasn't he? When he's everything about his game. He looks like a big, tall, strong lad. He looks he looks quick. Great on his feet, quick feet, and he looks one for the future. So what about you guys? I don't know what you think about it.
Anyone want to take that?
Oh, that was a Geoff. That's what we're going to call that bloke. I had myself on mute. We got.
I can give you something if you want.
Go on, Kris.
Yeah, go, Kris.
Just a quickie. God, it makes me sound so pretentious, but I'd seen him twice before he signed for us.
Here we go. The hipsters are back.
I hate it. No, I do. Most people will know I watch a lot of French football, and I do watch a lot of the sort of the youth games and the Ligue 1 and various different bits and bobs. Now, I'll say straight off, I had no idea we were going to sign him or Yassine Fortune, who's the other lad we've got in the same deal. So I'm not that hipster because I didn't genuinely know we were going after them. But the bits I can remember, they played. I think it was Montpellier in the Youth Cup, the game that I watched. And to be perfectly honest, Fortune was the one that stood out. Very similar build, very similar athlete, but was just quite direct and good on the ball. Whereas Geoff, actually, sort of the game I watched, he played more of a central striker role or in behind almost. So he's kind of, I think, on the wing it's the classic Arsene way, isn't it? You know, play him out wide, beef him up a bit, get him used to contact, and then gradually move him inside. The thing I liked about J-Ra, as I've affectionately nicknamed him, is that he had no fear, absolutely no fear, came straight in. And the last time I can remember a player playing with so much freedom, granted it's a different level of football, but when the Devil's favourite demon, Fabregas, joined us, and when he stepped into the side at Everton and we beat, I think it was 6-1 on the opening day, and asked some sort of the team sheets come out, and it was this 16-year-old kid in our lineup, and everyone was like, well, what is he doing? And that was the last time I can really remember a player of that age coming in. The comparison maybe with Bentley is also there, coming in, making an instant impact. But let's hope for all of our sakes he's not quite as sort of stuck up and arrogant as Bentley. And yeah, the kid's got a future. What I would say is be cautious. You know, Nicholas Anelka came through a very similar age group, and it took him 2 years to find his feet. Let's not all go crying for him to start every week. You know, just because we lose one game in November, for example, give the kid a chance.
And the other player that, of course, set tons wagging as well was Iwobi. Of course, he had a strong Asia tour as well. Andrew, do you know much about him? I know that JJ Kocha is his uncle, so he comes from a strong bloodline of footballers. And from what I saw of him, he looked like a nice, tidy little player.
No, you're right. Yeah, he certainly impressed in the second game. I think he showed a lot of kind of. Remember the promise which Kieran Gibbs showed in the. Kieran Gibbs played, I think, on the left wing against Inter Milan in 2007 in the Emirates Cup, and he showed much kind of a similar potential there. He was very much very focused on the left wing. He offered us kind of a different dimension to the team in that he had that natural ability out wide. Again, I mean, I want to emphasise the point. I don't want to get too carried away and put too much pressure on him, but he certainly, you know, along with the other youngsters we mentioned, certainly kind of stood up and staked the claim. And I think obviously Wenger's in turn, you know, been very, very spoken kindly about him in the press. So it'd be nice to see him integrated into the Carling Cup or the Cock Cup squad this season. I think he certainly earned some of the reputation and the growing reputation he's getting. And I think he might be one for the future.
Yeah, definitely so. And Kate, from what you managed to see of the Emirates Cup, was it all positive for you? Are you happy with everything that happened? Our build-up in pre-season, how we're going into the season. Have we done everything the right way? Are you happy with the way we've conducted ourselves and most of all the results?
Yeah, the results I'm happy with. Who is happy with the signings? I'm happy with Petr Cech coming in, but maybe at least one more signing would be nice before the end of the transfer window. But yeah, happy with the results. I'm happy that they played positively and they seem to be clicking together. So hopefully that's a sign of the season to come, that will be how we actually start the season this year.
Yeah, hopefully so. And FK, finally to you to wrap the Emirates Cup up. We brought the trophy home, or brought it back home. Nice to see it in the Emirates trophy cabinet again.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's always nice to win these trophies. I mean, to be honest, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. If you know, when we don't win it, it's oh, look at Arsenal can't win their own trophies. If you do win it, oh, I can't believe Arsenal fans are taking it as a trophy. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's a pre-season friendly tournament. Great to win it. The first game against Lyon was astonishing. You know, we were absolutely outstanding that first half, the first sort of hour, and we just blew them away. And it was just great to see. And for the fans, for the kids, nice day out. Yeah, great to win it. Not going to make much of it, but it was just a good build up. You know, importantly, we stayed in London, not too much travel involved, and then of course we went to Wembley and did Chelsea, which I'm sure we'll talk about now.
Yes, exactly. Which wraps that up nice and neatly and moves us on to the Community Shield. Geoff, we'll go to you first of all. You were there, so what was the atmosphere like? Were the fans as pumped up for that as they were the FA Cup final? From everyone that I've spoken to that was there, they said that it was absolutely phenomenal. It was a great day. Some say the Community Shield isn't worth anything, but our fans do enjoy a good day out at Wembley, don't they?
Well, the Chelsea fans seem to say that it's not worth anything now. But you know what? I mean, the atmosphere is always good at Wembley. Arsenal, it's like their second home now. We've been there, I think, 6 or 7 times over the past 2 seasons, and I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it? It's great to get the fans there. We always make a lot of noise. You saw everybody there with the flags and everything else, and I mean, great atmosphere. I mean, you know what? And we didn't have to beat Chelsea, which was a ball breaker, if you pardon my French, because we'd had that period where we haven't beaten Chelsea for a number of years. Wenger had that 13-game hoodoo. Mourinho had it over Wenger, and you know, I think it was well worth the win. We sat up right. We defended very well. A great goal from the Ox, and you know, to be honest with you, we could have won it by 2 or 3 in the end.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. FK, we'll go back to you then. Geoff said about Ox's goal. For me, he'd been phenomenal all pre-season. I think he came out in a press conference and he said that he's training harder than ever. He feels sharper than ever. And it certainly looks that way on the pitch, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think he's shown glimpses of promise over the last couple of years. You know, the Bayern Munich cameo springs to mind when he almost ran the whole pitch, and you know, he's obviously got lots of talent. Injuries have obviously stifled him. People forget, you know, there's some serious competition now at Arsenal, so it's not easy to penetrate, you know, and get into that first team. Now he's got the chance, given that Sanchez has a bit of a break and Walcott's not really sort of ready just yet, maybe, and with Jack getting injured, he might get a bit more game time, so he really needs to leave an impression on the team. My biggest thing about him was that I think he's best as an explosive kind of forward, but Wenger's often spoken about him being used as a central midfielder, so that'd be quite interesting to see how he gets on. But lots of promise, and I'm so happy for him getting his goal. I mean, I remember speaking to a few friends over the summer that when you see the Ox, all you ever see is like his banter game on Twitter or on social media. He's always joking about people on the Arsenal videos, and I was kind of hoping inside me that, you know, it's great, all good and well that you're the face of the club off the pitch, but you need to deliver on the pitch when you get the chance, and he's done that. So fair play to him. Great game against Chelsea. Let's hope he gets some game time this year, and let's hope he can stay fit, because even if he doesn't start, what an option to have off the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Kris, I wanted to go to you. Not just seeing Ox's performances in pre-season, but I think he certainly looks, and I mean, he's a well-built guy anyway, but he certainly looks a bit more chiseled this season, doesn't he? Like he's really built up his bulk.
Yeah, he does. That's a horrible phrase, by the way.
Yeah, not bulk as in a Danny way, because that's like fat bulk, but as in muscle bulk, as in it's quite clear that he's been going down the gym, he's training hard. He looks peak physical fitness.
Absolutely, that's very unprofessional of me. I do apologise.
Yeah.
No, I think you're absolutely right. We were chatting to a little cheap plug actually for Dom, who's written a blog, which is I believe on the Bergie blog site as of now. Geoff put it up last night.
Follow them on Twitter at the Bergie Blogs.
Absolutely, he put up some brilliant stuff. Obviously, it's Dom, so obviously it is brilliant. About the fitness and the condition of the players and how a pre-season is so important for a player that's coming in or a player that wants to make an impression, because it's their opportunity to really build their body. And he made a great point about the likes of Danny Welbeck, for example, who's missed pre-season, and is going to spend pretty much 2 months catching up, whereas the other players are going straight into their peak sort of physical condition to play the season. And he also made a point about Christian Bielik, whereas a lot of us thought we were going to see him in pre-season, we didn't. And Don made the point that they've probably done a Sudoku with him, where they've literally sent him abroad, said, right, get yourself on the weight, son, build your body up. And obviously you can't build your body and muscle at the same time as when you're getting your fitness up, as it were. So with the Ox, I think he's been on maybe the Theo diet, because they both look bigger, they both look, as you say, more defined, and they both look sharp. And the thing with Ox as well is people don't realise how quick the guy is. He's got a real turn of pace, and he showed that in the Community Shield and in all pre-season. And if you're looking at moving Theo Walcott potentially through the middle, you've got a ready-made replacement, arguably a better wide player than Theo is in the Ox. And I echo what FK said. The most important thing for that lad is staying fit and getting games. It's pretty clear from what I can see. The manager really wants to get him into his lineup, and if he's fit, I think he'll get a lot of games. And I know John Welsh from the radio show has used this quote, and I'll back him. I think he's potentially, or could be potentially, a better player than Bale is.
Definitely so. We've seen glimpses of his potential. I remember last year he came on, or he played against Man United, and down that right wing he was just absolutely phenomenal. And I do recall saying on a podcast then, do you know what, if that's the Chamberlain that plays for Arsenal and that we see that performance-wise week in, week out, then we are on to such a winner. But in terms of atmosphere and on the day, I wanted to go to Andrew, and you were there, Andrew. And I know you wanted to do a bit about the fans that were there, didn't you? There was something you wanted to say about that.
Yeah, no, I was there. I've been to all of our 6 outings to our second home as Geoff Pitts in the last couple of years, and we're really starting to make it our own. I think when we first went there in the game at Wigan a couple of years ago, we weren't that loud, and it took us a bit of time. I think we really feel at home there now, and it's excellent to see. I think and I'm right. I think Geoff's right there. We completely outsung the Chelsea fans as we usually out, and you saw it last in the FA Cup final. We completely outsung the Villa fans. The flags which were presented to the fans were fantastic. There's a real atmosphere pumping. There was one thing that really got to me. So I was in block 110, which is pretty much directly behind the goal, and then in between the edge of the penalty area and the 6-yard box. So just there on the corner to the right hand side. So if you're looking at it behind the goal onto the pitch, you're just slightly to the right. And throughout the game, we played at Wembley 6 times now. You kind of know if you're going to get a ticket behind the goal, you're going to stand up. 6,000 people all stand up, and it's just common knowledge. And if you don't know that, you buy a ticket and you go behind the goal. And if you want to sit down, you stand up and you keep your mouth shut. But I looked to the right at one point, and I saw a group of maybe 150 to 200 people all sat down, shouting at people to sit down. And it really, really angered me that the hard work that football fans and football trusts, sports trusts across the nation are doing to try and get safe standing into grounds and to promote standing. That we had this kind of group of mamby-pambies all sat down screaming at people, expecting the other 5,900 Arsenal fans behind the goal to sit down just because they did. And it really kind of spoilt the atmosphere where we had people just constantly screaming sit down and expecting the other X number of thousand people to give up the atmosphere just because of them. I think it's more people sometimes think that if you just turn up that's enough. No, you should turn up and give everything to support behind the team. For the most part, the fans were absolutely incredible from the get-go. There was one point during the match, I think everyone obviously saw, there was the Arteta and Falcao tussle, which was in the Arsenal end, which completely galvanised the fans because it was down on our side. We're 1-0 up, and then Chelsea take their free kick, mess it up, get a corner. Fabregas is about to take the corner, so all the fans are booing and hissing him in the corner. Someone's thrown a water bottle. It's taken about 10 seconds, but it lands and hits him on the leg just as he takes the corner. So the whole the crowd erupt. The ball comes in, Czech catches it, and then throws it out. And in the sequence of those three events, the fans are going wild for 10 minutes solid, and all you can hear is the Arsenal. They were absolutely fantastic. But that one little piece just there, where those fans were sat down, that really got to me, and that's something I think we need to address at Wembley. The FA need to look at the whole kind of standing area. I know that there's some people who kind of mention that when these fans stand up, the people in the disabled area can't see so well, which again needs to be addressed. But yeah, I think on the whole the fans were brilliant, but there were pockets of some Arsenal fans which the kind of the day trippers who really didn't help the atmosphere there, and sometimes I don't feel we help ourselves in trying to get behind the team.
No, definitely so. Sorry, you just caught me mid-drink. You finished kind of abruptly there, Andrew.
I can go on for a very long time if you want to have some more of your drink, but don't you blame your drinking problems on me here, Gimli.
They're not problems, they're solutions. Kate, I'll come to you next. Many will say that Chelsea didn't take it seriously, but from where I was sitting, I know you were there with me. It didn't look that way to me. They came to win, didn't they?
Well, he put a strong team out. They didn't park the bus necessarily. They played. They wanted to win that. Again, Mourinho's not going to be one of those people that goes out and just plays a game for the sake of it. He's going to go out to win. He doesn't want a second-rate team.
And sticking with Mourinho and you, Kate, he said that Chelsea deserved to win the game. Is that something you agree with? I mean, personally, I think Arsenal could have put the game to bed 2 or 3-0. 1-0 probably didn't do it justice. Do you think that Arsenal deserved to win the game, and you disagree with Mourinho?
Yeah, of course. Mourinho's an arsehole. We all know it. But no, yes, Arsenal could have scored more goals. I'm sure Chelsea probably could have scored, but he does my head in. I hate him. But no, the best team didn't win. The team that scored the most goals won it in the end, and that's how it's going to look on paper. So he can sod off.
And spot of the day did come from you. When the camera panned on Mourinho, it looked like he had bitch tits.
It did. His top was sticking out, wasn't it? It looked like he had little pointy titties.
Little pointers. Right, we'll get back on track then. I want to talk about Petr Cech and his performance. And there'll be many people that question that after having such an illustrious career with Chelsea, that he might not come to Arsenal and bring his heart and soul, or even be 100% up for the cause. It didn't look like that, did it, FK? He was pumped. He came with Arsenal to win with Arsenal. He wanted that. It looked like he was almost supernatural in goal, trying to stop them score. I'm just so impressed with him. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper, a great goalkeeper. I mean, he's won everything there is to win in the game. Obviously played at the highest level for many, many years, for very, very good managers over the years at Chelsea. And when we signed him, as much as I like Szczesny and as much as I still think he can go on to become Arsenal #1 in years to come, I think Petr Cech is a great signing. He's just so calm, he's so professional. He gives every defender around him a great boost of confidence. And if you've actually seen the Arsenal players' interviews on the Arsenal YouTube website where players have talked about their star of the season, surprisingly they talk about the goalkeeper more than they've probably ever talked about a goalkeeper before. And they've talked about how much confidence they give them as outfield players. And yeah, what a professional guy. I mean, I'm sure he's, if you're being the human side of him, I'm sure he's very close to Chelsea. He's probably quite sad to leave them, if we're all being honest. But now he's at Arsenal. He's an Arsenal player. He's got a bigger challenge. He's at a proper football club, and now he's gonna, now he was just a professional. He did his job, and I think it's really interesting to hear that Wenger saying on BT Sport that Cech goes into training and he drills into his defenders that look, I'm not here to mess about. I'm here just to get clean sheets. That's kind of just sums him up. All he wants to do is just keep goal, keep clean sheets, and just be as good a goalkeeper as he can. So great signing. And for 10, 11 million pounds at 33 years of age, I think actually could turn out to be one of Wenger's best ever signings. So really pleased we've got him.
Very well said. Danny, I want to come to you next, and I don't know if you saw the video after the game that Cech and Mertesacker sort of hugged, and you can hear in the background on the cameras Cech saying to Mertesacker, "See, I told you we'd win." That winning mentality, isn't it lovely to have around the team? Just a purebred winner. How do you think that winning mentality can rub off on the others, and how can we use it to our advantage? Do you think that we can use that to dig into games, when we're up against it, having such a calm guy like Cech in goal who can install almost a sense of tranquility in just his presence? Do you think that can really aid us this season?
Definitely, he's a player who's had more than a decade of constant winning. What's he won? I think 3 or 4 Premier League titles. He's won the Champions League with them scum. He's won FA Cups. I think that he won the UEFA Cup. I'm not sure whether he's in goal for the UEFA Cup or not, but I'm sure he's part of the squad. And a player like that who's just gone on to win absolutely everything is going to bring nothing but confidence. Like Kris was telling me that I missed this bit on the interview, that the interviewer said to Wenger after the match that Petr Cech has said that he come to the club to keep clean sheets, and that's what he reminds the players of every day. And Wenger just smiled. I think that's the gist of what happens, and that is just pure quality. And that is the amount of confidence you must have as a team when you have someone like Petr Cech in goal behind you. We were saying last season the difference between having a Spina in the goal behind you, where he's not going to muck up all the time, compared to Szczesny, who is probably a better goalkeeper but not a better pro. Then I think that Petr Cech is the combination of both of those two. He's the better pro and he's the better player. And no, it's going to be like when the days when Seaman was in goal for Arsenal and when Jens Lehmann was in goal, that that you can concentrate on your job because he's going to do your job. He's going to do his job perfectly, and you're not going to have to worry about him running out to the halfway line and trying to volley the ball into the back of the net. He's going to stay there. He's going to scream at you. His communication skills are going to be second to none. And he like John Terry, even if John Terry says it, Petr Cech is the kind of player that's going to get you 15 points a season, because you think the number of times and muck-ups that Szczesny had last season and occasionally a Spina, that isn't going to happen next season. You see, we're going to be back to conceding maybe less than 20 goals a season, whereas recently we've been letting in 30 plus goals a season. Up front, we're going to be scoring more goals, and just the confidence of having somebody behind you you don't have to worry about is just going to be absolutely amazing. And he is going to do it. Edwin van der Sar, when he went to Man United, was 34. Now I know we've done all kinds of sums, and people have gone, this player there, that player was there, but this is in now football, and I reckon he'll be our number one for at least 4 seasons. And maybe Szczesny will come back, and Szczesny will be maybe the FA Cup or maybe Champions League keeper, because the older that Petr Cech is going to get, I think maybe he won't want to fly around as much. He may retire from international football, but he's an absolute star of a player and a legend and a gentleman, and I'm just over the moon. If I could have had one signing all season, that's me done. I'm perfectly happy with that. It's brilliant.
No, that's fair enough. Geoff, I wanted to come to you next. And the question that I wanted to ask is, of course, we've touched on the fact that many will say that it's a nothing trophy, but winning it and in many ways defeating the demons that were Arsene Wenger not being able to win against Mourinho, or even Arsenal being able to win against Chelsea themselves. Does that install a sense of belief into the players so close to the new season that, yeah, we can beat the champions here? Maybe we are in with a sniff.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Everybody, every single Arsenal fan, and all the media and everybody was always reminding us of that stat that Mourinho held over Arsene Wenger. From all the clubs that he's been at, and we have struggled against them, and it was so important to get the win. But not only that, because it was before the season started. It's great to get the monkey off our back. Let's say we've gone in, same as last year. We've gone in against Man City. We give them a good belting, and we played a good, strong Chelsea team that was set up the Mourinho way, and we beat them clearly, and I think that's going to stand us in good stead. It gives everybody confidence, and it is. I don't care what people say. Those games are not a friendly. I don't know a footballer. I mean, Kris, he still plays. Your boys, when they go out on a weekend, they don't go. They still play. There's no such thing as a friendly. And I think the Arsenal players, they'll take so much from that. They knew before that we could beat Chelsea, but we just had a few silly little mistakes. And the most important thing was that we need to score against these big teams first. Because once we get in front, that means they've got to open up and they'll come and try and attack us to get the goal, and then we can counter-attack. Because a lot of teams they're terrified to play us. They know we'll pass them off the pitch. We're little triangles and have short little passes, and it will definitely stand in good stead for the season to come. And you know what, we play them in a few weeks' time, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and it wouldn't surprise me if we did the same again. We'd beat them.
No. Definitely so. Kris, I'll move on to you next. And of course, Geoff was talking about that Wenger-Mourinho rivalry, and of course a lot has been made about the handshake after the game, and all the players coming down the famous Wembley steps and getting a handshake from Mourinho, and Arsene Wenger just blanked him and walked behind him. Now, what's your take on that? Should Arsene Wenger maybe be the bigger man, or is this mind games ahead of the Premier League season? I will come to all of you and ask you whether you guys think that Arsene Wenger was right or wrong. But Kris, just your take on it.
My take on it is that Arsene Wenger is whatever you think of him, whatever camp you're in. Let's not go there. But the bottom line is the guy is a gentleman, but I don't think he suffers fools gladly. I don't think he's a guy that is gonna sort of do the decent thing if he doesn't feel the person he's doing it with is deserving of it. Jose Mourinho, you can't take away the fact the guy is successful, but I think he lacks class. I think he's a very bad loser, which, by the way, isn't necessarily a bad trait, but there's a way of losing. There's a way of being respectful. And I think Arsene Wenger is a guy that remembers these things. Let's not forget, this all started 5, 6, 7 years ago when he made the voyeur comments. And it strikes me that Jose Mourinho is one of those people that, like a lot of people on Twitter, that he often doesn't have very good things to say about anybody else, but rather than keeping them to himself, he seems to like to tell everybody. The one thing that I would probably say is that from Arsene Wenger's point of view, I didn't disagree with what he did. I would have turned my back on him. In fact, I wouldn't have gone near the guy. I would have had a wash if I had done. But I do think that maybe people have read into this too much. I think Jose Mourinho, Kate talked about how he dressed. I think there was a very clear point in that he didn't put a suit on. I think he wanted to go out dressed like that, almost as if to say, well, it's only a friendly. If we lose, he can go, well, it's not serious. I wasn't even dressed properly. If he'd have won, that wouldn't have, he would have been like, oh well, I was always laid back about it. So I think to a degree, it is mind games. It's all psychological crap. Arsene will not give a toss. He really won't. He will focus, like Geoff said, he'll focus on that game coming up towards the early part of the season. He'll look at it as a marker laid down. And I think from Jose Mourinho's point of view, he did what Jose always does. He brought up the fact that we quote unquote parked the bus, which for the record is a load of rubbish, and he deflected the attention completely, from the game to the handshake. And I think if you watch the footage back carefully again, yes, Arsene probably was fully aware Jose Mourinho was there, but Jose Mourinho also very sort of notably turned his shoulder away as he shook the last player's hand. He clearly turned his head the opposite way. So I think they're both as bad as each other. And unlike Alex Ferguson and Wenger when they had their issues, I think Arsene Wenger just doesn't like Jose Mourinho. And if you ask the Spanish press and the Italian press what they think of Mourinho, they'd probably tell you exactly the same. Unfortunately, it's just the British press that have got this love-in with him. But ask any other supporter of any other club, he's not got that many fans. So, well done, Arsene. We won the game. I really couldn't give a monkeys.
No, it does seem like constant sniping from Mourinho. Whether that's jealousy, I don't think we'll ever know. But yes.
One thing I want them that is annoying me in the press, they're making a big deal about that Wenger hasn't beaten Mourinho in 14 games, blah blah. It makes them sound like they're unbeaten against us. It's not. You get the last 9 Premier League games, we've beat them 5-3, we've beat them 3-1, we've drawn 0-0 with them 3 times. So out of 9 games, we've either won or drawn 5 of them. So I think people need to remember that it's not against Chelsea we haven't won in 14. It was against Mourinho, and that the Charity Shield does count, because those knobs, if they'd have beaten us, they'd have been celebrating, and they'd have had another bus tour around and put stab vests on and gone and got drunk up and bloody put white hoods on, and they'd have run around like that, like they usually do. They'd have absolutely loved it.
It seems like it's been a long while though since we've had a lot of any success against Chelsea. Though, what was the last game we won? Was it the Chelsea with Van Persie game?
Bridge with Walcott.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the 5-3 and the 3-1 straight after. We won both. The 5-3 at theirs, 3-1 at ours.
What year was
that?
We
absolutely destroyed them. I think that was about 4 years ago.
It's Van Persie, wasn't it? Yeah. You ask, like Danny says, Gim, you ask John Terry. You look at John Terry's face when we lifted that shield. You ask John Terry if he cares. Because I bet you any money he will say he does.
And they all celebrated when they won it a few years back, didn't
Absolutely,
they?
Those games, Geoff, it was December 2010, and then it was October 2011 when we did the 5-3 and the 3-1. So like 4 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
Going back on that Mourinho thing with Wenger, well, I mean, Wenger obviously he just dislikes him, doesn't he? He dislikes him, and I can see why. He's insulted him on more than one occasion. The voyeur, the specialist in failure. When
trying to wind him up.
Yeah, it was nothing. Wenger never said that, Mourinho was directly a failure or anything like that. I mean, he couldn't say that. He's a fantastically successful manager. But, why? I mean, Wenger doesn't like him. I don't see why you got to show, especially the way it occurred like that. I mean, Mourinho, he does it all the time. He has to take the play. Why has he got to stand at the bottom after we're walking down the steps and slapping all the players' hands? It's just so egotistical, and it really jars me. And Wenger, he done the right thing. Why give Mourinho the chance to make the play? You might as well just blank him and not be hypocritical. Why do you? I mean, if I didn't like someone, I wouldn't shake their hand.
No, very true, Geoff. We're going to chuck this out to the rest of the guys now. FK, was Arsene Wenger right or wrong to snub the handshake?
I totally understand why he did it, and I think actually when the game's biggest gentleman snubs the handshake, tells you a lot about just how much Wenger has kind of taken over the years. I think the spirit of the game, the final whistle's gone, you've won the trophy, you should shake hands. But you look at Mourinho, I think when he's patted the back of the last player, he's kind of turned his back, almost knowing that Wenger would be the last one to come down. And all right, Wenger's not made an effort to approach him, but I don't know, I think a lot's been made of it. They probably should have shook hands. I understand why Wenger didn't, but I tell you what I love, guys. I absolutely love the fact that we've totally got under Mourinho's skin. He cannot stop talking about us in press conferences. He bottled the Managers Association press conference the next day. I think in his press conference just before they played last night, they lose last night to Fiorentina in the press conference.
Yeah, they did.
In the press conference that he had to mention Arsenal. So this, clearly he sees us as probably their biggest rivals this year. He doesn't like losing. We all know that. He wants to be the big, the big character. But I think deep down he knows that Wenger's project is kind of coming to a close now, and he knows that we're ready to challenge. So I think it's awesome. I think it's only going to make well for a really exciting season between the two of them.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. Kate, what's your thoughts on the handshake snub, right or wrong?
Like FK, I guess I could see why he did it. I just put my head. There it is. I couldn't find my microphone. Sorry. But who cares? It's a football match. Mourinho would have only snubbed him anyway, so he got there first.
No, very true. And Andrew, final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, let's tear this shit up. But I think Wenger was in the wrong, actually. And the only reason I say that is because Wenger is a man a man of class and a man of dignity who presents himself well, and he's someone who you can point in football as being a man who is, as we mentioned, a man of superior class. And I think when you're of a man of his stature, his experience, his intelligence, he should be mature, and he should take the higher stance, and he should have shook Mourinho's hand. I was in the ground, as we know, and when Mourinho pulled the stunt, it's obvious. Actually, what I would say, a lot of Arsenal fans clapped Jose Mourinho when he was shaking all the players' hands. At first, a lot of the Arsenal fans reacted well to it. There was a couple of seconds of suspicion, a couple of seconds of booing, and then when they realised that he was shaking every single player's hand, the fans in turn started to clap their hands for Mourinho. And it wasn't until Wenger snubbed him that the Arsenal fans then clapped Wenger louder for doing that. Now, the only reason I say I think that Wenger should have shook Mourinho's hand, and why I think he's in the wrong, is because Wenger's an intelligent man. Wenger knows that Mourinho's a cretin. Wenger knows that Mourinho's a press one. Wenger knows that Mourinho likes to manipulate the press, so that when the result doesn't go his way, he gets the press to focus on something else to talk about. So we know from the outset that when Mourinho's going to stand there and shake every single player's hands, it gives Wenger the opportunity to shake his hand, and we know historically they've never really shaken hands. And so that detracts the story away from the quality of Arsenal, the quality of the performance, and it's more about the feud between Wenger and the feud between Wenger and Mourinho, as opposed to focusing on the quality of Arsenal and, frankly, the lack of quality that Chelsea brought. And I think Wenger, all he has to do is put a hand out, shake Mourinho's hand, doesn't even have to look him in the eye, get over and done with, walk on and be on with it, and then let Arsenal, take the glory that they deserve. And I think Wenger, a man of his age, he's 65, 66, he's a well-respected, intelligent man, and I think he shouldn't lower himself to the games that Mourinho plays. It's just a simple handshake. I understand why Wenger feels the way he does about Mourinho. They have very dispersed set of morals when it comes to football and spending and their philosophies, and they're complete opposites, they're antithesis of each other. And I don't disagree, and I don't doubt that they hate one another. But nonetheless, shake his hand, move on. I don't think that Wenger should be drawn into these kind of petty games. And Mourinho, and he shouldn't let Mourinho drag him down. He should stand above that.
No, very true. I guess some will argue that, he got one over on Jose Mourinho. What greater pleasure would there have been than to smugly shake his hand when you've been victorious over someone? Danny, you haven't had your say on this one, have you? And you've been very quiet tonight. So I know what you think of Mourinho, but right or wrong?
I think it's right, because if I wouldn't have been at all surprised if Wenger would have gone down there, gone to shake Mourinho's hands, and Mourinho would have put out that and gone no, because he's a child. That's all there is really to it. Wenger did the right thing. Wenger's a grown up. Mourinho lost the game, lost this invincible run of 14 games, which is you tried doing that for an entire season, you mug. I like Mourinho. If he was our manager, I think I'd like him. I'm not overly sure I'd like the football. He's a character in football, which is why there's so many papers, so many neutrals like him. But a bloke is just a tit, and he got showed to be a tit, and he is worried because we have got the better team next season, and we're going to win the Premier League. But yeah, I've got no problem with anything that Wenger does. I mean, too many people, no matter what Wenger does, if he come up with a cure for being ginger, there will still be people that hate him. So he can't win, can he? So no. I'm completely with what everyone else has said, and I think Andrew made some very good points there. That Mourinho is basically a bell end.
No, I think the main point that Andrew made this, truer than anything else, is Chelsea lost. It was very high profile. Yeah, no, but what he's done there by making himself the talking point is he's deflected the attention from his players.
Like he always does with coming up to a game as well.
Which really, I mean, the bloke is a bellend, and I don't think anyone's really arguing that. However, tactically and as a manager, it's a very clever move, and I don't think, we can't knock him for it, but, like I say, it's a very clever move to detract the attention off of your players when it's so close to a new season.
Ferguson used to do that all the time in Man United, didn't he? He'd always say something to take the pressure off the players.
Yeah, like when they lost, he couldn't say Van Nistelrooy's name properly. Van Nistelrooy. Yeah, anyway, so before we talk about our expectations for this season, let's talk about the transfer ins and outs and get some reaction. Pardon me. So far this summer, we've seen a lot of players go out on loan. So each of you can have a player, and I've already assigned you the players earlier today. And I want a brief analysis of what Arsenal really hope to achieve by sending this particular player out on loan. Will they come back? Do they have a future with Arsenal? And really, what's the main reasoning behind sending them out? So, Andrew, we're going to start with you. And the player that you've got is Wojciech Szczesny.
Interesting. For me, sending Szczesny out on loan makes sense. He's still only, as far as goalkeepers go, he's still very young. He's nowhere near at the kind of the peak years you expect from a goalkeeper. You can argue that Czech's in the rife of his peak years, and Ospina's kind of not too far off. But with Szczesny, kind of the balance is there. We've brought in Czech, arguably one of the top 3 goalkeepers in the league, certainly a world-class goalkeeper. And there's no doubt after the Southampton gate last year, when Szczesny was caught smoking in the shower and letting a couple of howlers, and his focus hasn't been there now for some time, and it is on and off, and it has been a worry for the club. And I know his father's pointed fingers at the goalkeeping coaches. It's one thing, it's an area which some fans might not think it's the most key area, but we had to address that. Bringing in Czech was a very wise move, I feel. And then it was always kind of been this ongoing debate, whether it's Szczesny or whether it's Ospina who takes the fall. Personally, I think Szczesny, his development, and I think Wenger's probably looked at it and he's made a call that Szczesny's development and his future at Arsenal is probably more in the balance than Ospina. I think Szczesny still has the chance to be Arsenal's #1 long-term keeper. And I say that because he's a very talented, very gifted young goalkeeper. His mental attitude isn't quite there, and he needs a club like Roma or some top club to take him on loan, because I don't think Szczesny is the kind of guy who has the ego to take this on the chin and sit on the bench and learn from Czech. He needs to be playing first-team football, and I think this perhaps will give him a reality check, and also give him the chance to learn and improve in a different environment. And we really don't want to be curtailing the career of Szczesny. So this gives him a chance to continue and hopefully playing in Italy and living in a different country, playing with a different team will help mature him slightly, because he does have a very he does show quite a lot of signs of immaturity. We saw it when he used to make rape jokes on Twitter. We've seen it in his general behaviour. We know that Wenger's had a few clashes with him. We know that his father's a renegade in the press. So I think it's good for him to get some time out from Arsenal, reflect on his career. He's certainly not progressed in the last 2 seasons in the way the trajectory of his career was showing before that. So I think giving him the chance to go out and take some time out really and kind of reflect and improve, and then come back and prove himself is far better. It's far better than him just sitting on the bench and not getting game time or playing for the reserves. Whereas I think with Ospina, we have a solid #2 who probably doesn't have those ego issues, and Wenger might not have the same ambition for Szczesny because he's not his protege, but he's shown that he's capable of coming in as our #2 goalkeeper as and when needed. And I think that's probably going to be the rationale there. And I do hope that Szczesny comes back at some point and he does mature and he does fight Czech for that #1 place next season. And if it's true that we're willing to let him go for a very small amount of money next summer, I would be disappointed, because I do think he's got the potential. It's just how do we best unlock that? And let's hope that Roma do a better job than we do in the season ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And by the time that Petr Cech is thinking about hanging up his gloves, Szczesny is reaching his prime as a goalkeeper. So, maybe there is some rationality behind that. Do you think he has a future with Arsenal, Andrew?
I'd certainly like to think so. I think it kind of depends on. I mean, Danny, you mentioned earlier, you think Czech's going to be our goalkeeper, #1 goalkeeper for 3 or 4 years now. If that's the case, then I don't think he's going to sit around and be #2 until that point. He's 25, 26. Even though he's still relatively young for a goalkeeper, he's too good and too egotistical to do that, and I wouldn't blame him. But I do think that if he goes away and he performs well at Roma, I think he's shown signs in friendlies he's doing well. But he matures. That's the main thing. I think Wenger's very much focused on players in his squad which have a mental fortitude and a mental kind of they need to be mature, mental maturity. And Wenger certainly wants Szczesny to develop that. So if he can go away and develop that and show more consistency in his performances, cut out the crap like smoking in the shower, cut out the crap like running at his box, trying to do step overs against the strikers, and get rid of all that nonsense, then he could be challenging Czech for the #1 spot next season or the season after. but he does need to develop himself as a person, I think, before he can develop himself as a professional in the first team.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and that was above and beyond, Andrew. So if we can get something similar to that about your chosen players, Kate, I'm going to go with you next, and the player that you've got is Carl Jenkinson.
Carl Jenkinson, okay. I think sending him out on loan will be good for him because he needs to tighten himself up a little bit. That sounds really wrong, but he's got a lot of passion, and that passion he hasn't quite learned to control yet. So sending him out on loan to wherever,
West Ham.
whoever. No, I know where he's gone now, but if he went out on another one, if he went out to anyone in the Premier League, he's going to gain that experience that he needs to be able to keep his emotions under control. He's a great player, and he's going to be a good one to watch for the future, but I don't think he's quite there yet.
No, I mean, he had a very, very solid season for West Ham last year, particularly in the first half. He was gaining rave reviews up and down the land and from the media. Do you think that at the moment it's just not his time because of the emergence of Bellerin?
Yeah, I think he's kind of hit it at the wrong time. And I wasn't a big fan of Bellerin in the beginning of last season, but towards the end of the season, he was immense. And Jenkinson was nowhere near that when he was with us. And maybe it just won't be his time for Arsenal. But I guess he needs to go out on loan to develop as a player, as a person, get a bit more experience. And then who knows, maybe he'll come back to us and be the bright shining star, but maybe he won't.
No, very true. I mean, do you personally think he has a future at Arsenal?
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
But again, that depends on how well Bellerin does. Callum Chambers again. I mean, you just don't know. I'd like to think so.
No. We'll move on. The next player that we have is Yaya Sanogo. Step up, Big G.
Yeah, Yaya. Obviously, he's gone away to Ajax for a year's loan. I mean, everyone was moaning about Yaya Sanogo. He's never going to be good enough to Arsenal and everything else, which might be true. And but that's because we're at such a level now that we need ready-made centre forwards. We're not really in that market to bring a young lad like Sanogo in and give him 20 first team games straight away because we're just not at that stage any longer. Yaya's got great pedigree. We got him for nothing. He covers a free. It was a no-brainer really getting him because he's going to be worth something at the end of it. But he's gone through the French youth teams from under 16, 17, 19, 20 and under 21 level. He had a great, I think it was a Euro tournament for the under 21s where he scored a few goals. I don't think Yaya is ever going to be a man that's going to be banging in 30 goals a season. He went out on loan at Crystal Palace last season. He was in and out of the team. Again, I think he only got one goal. But the best thing about the loan period is he needs games, he needs to get on the pitch, stay clear of injury, and then see how he progresses. And you never know, he might come back, and he might come back, he might do a job for Arsenal one day as a second striker or, as a fill-in maybe. But I honestly do believe his future is somewhere away from Arsenal. I don't believe he's gonna make it at Arsenal. But listen, guys, I hope we're all proved wrong about Sanogo.
Did you hear that last night he played for Ajax in the second leg of the Champions League qualifiers and they went out 5-4 on aggregate to Rapid Vienna, so he's not playing in the Champions League now.
Did he score then?
No, he didn't score. He only come on after about 70 minutes. And he also come on as sub in the first game with 6 minutes to go, so I mean he's only really had 35 minutes. So no, I'm quite surprised that Ajax got knocked out really, so that's a bit of a shame. That's some valuable experience if he'd have got into the group games, but
Can we also mention that Robin van Persie's Fenerbahce have also crashed out at the preliminary stage? So
They spent 30 million quid on players.
Yeah, Nani as well. They've gone out 3-0 to Shakhtar Donetsk, so they're gone as well. So
we need that sound effect with the applause, don't we?
I was looking at the results, so it's too late now.
Yes. Right, we'll move on then. FK, you're the one next up, and you've got Chuba Akpom.
Yeah, a bit of a no-brainer, really. A young kid who's been at Arsenal since he was 6, never really had the opportunity to play too many games for the first team, had a few appearances in pre-season, and I think he's got a lot to learn. I mean, of course, he's young, he's quick, he's quite mobile, but I think he tries to do too much with the ball. He's a bit hasty with his decision-making, and you could see that there were players around him, particularly in the Emirates Cup, where they kind of looked up at him expecting him to do something else, so he's got a lot to learn. If I'm being brutally honest with you, I was a little disappointed that he couldn't secure a loan move within the Premier League. But friends of mine who watch the Championship, they will tell me that they will tell us all that it's a very, very competitive league, and you could argue that it's probably a more physical league. So if he's going to learn his trade as a young boy, playing in a pretty tough league, in a demanding league where I think they play 46 games as well. So hopefully get some game time. He's been in the Championship before with Nottingham Forest, only started a handful of games, so you'd hope he'd start a few more with Hull. And I think the fact that he's gone with Isaac Hayden, that might be a good little confidence booster for him. He knows someone else at the club. And Steve Bruce has always, he's had a bit of a habit of taking Arsenal players on loan. So let's hope he gets some game time. Whether he'll be back or not, I think I've got to agree with Geoff. Football nowadays has changed, and the big teams haven't got the luxury of trying to bleed in the youngsters like Ferguson and Wenger used to. I mean, fair play, Wenger still kind of does it. You could argue Manchester United still have that philosophy of playing youngsters, but when you've got Chelsea and City, you've got 2 established players in pretty much every position. You can't take that risk. And what Geoff was saying exactly about Yaya Sanogo, you just haven't got. You just can't give Yaya Sanogos and Chuba Akpoms 20 games a season. So as much as you'd like to see him play because he's had a few good under 21 games, he's just not going to get that chance. So no brainer. Let's hope he comes back in a year. And the fact that he's an Arsenal boy, he's been at the club since he was 6. It'd be a fairy tale story if he were to come back and generate a place in the squad for himself. But given the types of forwards that we're signing, guys, Sanchez and Walcott and Giroud, and if we get someone like Karim Benzema, then it's a long way off for him, long way.
And what do you think if he goes to Hull and he absolutely smashes it this season? Of course, we know Championship football. It could be ready-made for him, like it was. Who was our youngster that went to MK Dons and was phenomenal? Was it? Yeah, that's the one. Say he goes and has a season like that. Does he come back and still have a future? Or, like you said, I mean, we're being linked with players and there is, for all of you waiting, a transfer bit coming up on who we're linked to. But, we've got the likes of Marco Reus, Aubameyang, Benzema. I can't see how Akpom, or like Geoff rightly said, Sanogo, can get into a team like that when you've got so many big names.
Well, he's got 2 things on his side. He's got age, and he's got the fact that he's he's English, he's British born and bred. So in that sense, he's got 2 or 3 years now to really establish himself. I think even if he has a sterling season in the Championship, let's say he plays 30 games and gets 25 odd goals, the acid test is the Premier League. And I think if he has a really successful next year, I think it would be wise to send him out on loan to a Premier League team the year after. I personally don't think, given the caliber of striker that we're being linked with now, season after season, I personally don't think he'll make it in the next sort of 2 or 3 years. But it's an interesting one, Gim. I mean, you see players like Jordan Rhodes. There was a chap at Middlesbrough last season who scored an amazing number of goals. I think he's a Chelsea boy, actually. And you do wonder why these guys aren't given a chance in the Premier League. And there's obviously a big gap. So I just can't see it. As much as I'd love to see an Arsenal boy come through and, he's come through the ranks, really kind of prosper and succeed, I just can't see it, man. I just, the competition at the big clubs now is fierce, and, we just haven't got that luxury. You might get the odd Carling Cup game, but to be fair to the boy, he should be playing regular football, and I think it might be a lower Premier League team or maybe a Championship team. But that's at 2015, who knows? I just hope he has a good season next year.
Yes, exactly right. We'll move on then. Very expertly done, FK. And we'll go to Danny, who has picked out of the hat Dan Crowley. Super Dan Crowley. Is he on mute again?
He's not listening. Unbelievable.
Oh, he's fucking useless. First pod in, and he's already lost interest.
He's just eating. Look, he has no idea what's going on, the lad.
He's talking on mute.
What a numpty.
Take yourself on mute, Daniel.
And just to answer a listener question, Sam Ruth, who asked, am I naked? Yes, I am. I've killed it.
You're still on mute, Daniel.
Is he messed it up? Okay, right. We'll have to go back to Danny, because obviously after 2 years of podcasting, he's still inept. Kris, we'll go to you, who you were supposed to wrap it up by giving us a nice little brief analysis of John Torrell, Isaac Hayden, and Ashley Maitland-Niles.
I'll skip through then as quickly as possible until Danny returns.
Don't worry, I don't think he's fucking coming back anytime soon, the useless cunt.
He's wheeled off, he's gone, he's a protest. Okay, so I'll take one at a time. Start with Ashley Maitland-Niles, Conservative. He's gone on loan to Ipswich for the season. I know he was one of Fifey's favourites, so that's a shame he's gone. But yeah, midfielder, he's a big lad. I think probably his chances will be, I would guess they'd be curtailed by the other players who are slightly in front of him. It sickens me that he was born in 1997. That just sounds so wrong. But he's a 17-year-old. He's kind of a winger is his best position. It'd be interesting to see where Mick McCarthy decides to use him at Ipswich, because he's. I think he'll suit Championship football, the size he is, but I'm not sure Championship football is where wingers excel, other than the lad at Brentford, the Scottish lad, who's pretty good. But other than that, I think the Championship is more a robust league, so it's probably a move that will give him first team football. We'll see how he comes back. John Torrell, is a player that quite excites me, actually, to be honest. He's a sort of central midfielder. He's a playmaker, a bit of a cross between a Jack Wilshere and a Santi Cazorla. I think he's technically very good, but he's got the engine as well. He was on loan at Brentford last season. Impressed, really. 6 goals and 34 starts, or 34 appearances, I should say. Going to Birmingham, I think it's a good step up. I think Brentford and Birmingham, if you look at what Brentford achieved last year, Birmingham's squad could potentially achieve the same. So I think he'll be in and around the playoffs, so he'll be playing some fairly high-level Championship football. He is 20 years of age, so he's more of a player that if he's going to make the breakthrough, this is probably going to be the season where he needs to do a lot on loan this year to get a chance with us. He came from the La Masia, or set up from Barcelona's youth department. Interestingly as well, his partnership that he had when he was at Barcelona was with Sergi Samper, who has been linked with us numerous times over the summer. He's kind of billed as the new Busquets at Barcelona, so he's quite used to playing with small, intricate, tricky players. So he'll fit the Arsenal system well, and I hope he does really well, because he looks like a grounded lad. I think he's got a big future. So we'll see whether he plays for a move or whether he comes back. And the final one is Isaac Hayden, who again, he looked the part for me when he came on in the pre-season games. It was a brief cameo in the Emirates Cup, but he looks the part. He's a big lad, physical. He's a local boy. I think he's a Chelmsford lad from memory. I'll have to look that up. But he's kind of your fabled central defensive midfielder / centre back. So he's an Arsenal type of player. He can play a couple of positions. He looks like a sort of player who can mix it. I think he came from Southend, so he's pretty much, as I said before, he's born and bred in the London area, so used to what he expects. I think he's 20 years of age, so again, it's a good move for him. It'll get him first team football. As FK mentioned before, Steve Bruce likes an Arsenal player. There's obviously a trust between the manager and Steve Bruce, so I think it's a fairly good chance he'll get games. And again, he's another one that's, I think, right on the edge. Probably the signing of Callum Chambers might have restricted his potential first team availability this season. I think Chambers, if Chambers went on loan, I think Hayden would have stayed. But the fact Chambers is sticking around suggests to me that's the reason they've moved him on. And he's been capped all the way from under 16 to under 20 level with England. So I think big things are expected of him. Much the same way, if you remember Matt Connolly before he left for Cardiff. I think he was, or for QPR, sorry, he was he was training with the England national team when they were down at Colney, and I think they thought very highly of him. So Hayden's a very similar type of player, and it's just again down to all three of those. It's down to how much game time they get, can they stay injury free, and can they make enough of an impression. We saw with Jack Wilshere, if you play well enough, you'll get given the chance by the manager. So hopefully they all get a good season under their belts, and they get the chances they deserve. Whether that's at Arsenal or not remains to be seen.
No, very good. Thank you very much, Kris. Danny, are you finally with us? Take that as a no then. Danny, last chance?
No, he's wading. Absolutely wading, the kid.
Okay then, who wants to take Dan Crowley?
Geoff knows a bit, don't you, Geoff?
Geoff, do you know a little bit about Dan Crowley?
Well, you know, I've not looked up anything, so you stuck it on me there a little bit. But I'll tell you what I do know. He's very, very well liked at the club. Fantastic technique on the, when he's got the ball at his feet. You saw that in the games that he played. Was it in Asia? I think he had a game in Asia, didn't he, the first game?
Yeah.
And he's really highly thought of as well, and the same as Maitland-Niles, both of them. That Maitland-Niles, the lad that has gone to Ipswich. The coaches, both of them two players, they really rate them. That's So we'll have to see how we get on. But again, it's going to be very, very difficult with these boys to break into the Arsenal first team, because we're now that club that we're going to have top players, and only top players are going to get a chance. But Arsenal is one of those clubs that if you are good enough, it doesn't matter how old you are, you will get a chance. So hopefully, we'll get a couple of players through, and it'll save us a few bob along the way as well.
Exactly.
You know what's really interesting about Dan Crowley, that he obviously he's only 17, and he had 2 offers from 2 championship teams to go on loan this year. And I think one was MK Dons. I can't quite remember who the other one was, but he turned them both down to join Barnsley, who are in League One. And his reason was that he doesn't want to go to the championship and just not play. He said that when he met the Barnsley manager, he was told that he'd pretty much play week in, week out. So for a 17-year-old to get maybe 30, 35 games in a season is going to be brilliant for him. So, and again, League One, you can imagine it's quite a physical
He'll rip
league,
it up.
So,
He'll rip it up, mate.
But you know
He
what,
will.
Geoff? I mean, physically, it's going to be really good for him to grow, because it's a pretty tough league. I'm pretty sure of it.
That is the only thing, though, Dan, FK, that they don't obviously play the Arsenal way. It's a little bit up and at you. You don't, and you know what? As you go down the leagues, in my experience, the game is you really don't get any time on the ball.
Exactly.
Whereas as you go up, you do, because you've got quality players all around you. You can't just dive in because they'll nutmeg you or they'll just flick past you. So as you go up the leagues, you get a little bit more time on the ball. As you go down the leagues, it's going to be a bit of a culture shock for him, because he's going to get kicked up in the air a few times. I promise you that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But from what I've seen of him, he certainly has the ability to be able to go to Barnsley, rock it, and come back twice a player. Even though he is at this moment in time absolutely superb, and in potential terms, would we say he's slightly ahead of Jack Wilshere, or would we say he's behind? I mean, up to you guys. What would you say?
What, on potential,
or where he is at the moment?
If you remember that video of Jack Wilshere that went round before Jack Wilshere became the Jack we know now, and he had big fluffy hair and his shirt was too big for him, and he scored a goal from memory, I think it's against West Ham in a youth game, where he curled it in from 25 yards, and it went viral when everyone was like, look at this kid, and that was the Jack Wilshere that I think we all thought. And if you look at what he's become, he's now bigger, he's filled out, he's more robust, injuries aside, and he's more of a stocky player, whereas he was a kind of a deep playmaker, or a number 10 almost at times when he was in the youth team. So Crowley will probably go, and Geoff makes an excellent point there, when going to Barnsley in lower league football, he will get kicked a bit, it will toughen him up, and also what a club to go to. It's in the middle of Yorkshire, it'll be wet and miserable. He's not going to have the sort of freedom of like a London, where he could potentially get his head turned by the the glamour and the lights. So I'm not saying anything derogatory against Barnsley, but I doubt it's got the nightlife London has, for memory. And the other thing as well is there's a player that Plymouth Argyle had, who I watched a bit when he was down here, called Conor Hurricane, who's thought of very, very highly, and he was at Barnsley. I think he still is actually, and he moved from Plymouth Argyle and he stepped up to Barnsley, and there's a lot of very sort of lower end Premier League clubs that are having a look at him, or had a look at him in the summer, and I think Crowley is potentially going to form a partnership with him if indeed he's still there. If not, his playing style is very, very similar. So if you drop down the leagues, like Geoff said, if he toughens him up, his development level is probably not far from where Jack's was. The difference is, again, what Geoff and FK said, is that he's coming into an Arsenal side now that is really geared to win a championship, and we've got so much strength. Whereas when Jack came through, there was arguably so much more transition that Jack had a much easier path to the first team.
Right then, the only thing that's left to talk about is the outs, apart from the ins. So far, we're yet to see Joel Campbell move. There's been a lot of talk about him. Who else do we think that's at Arsenal at the moment might be shipped on? Kris, if you want to carry us on with that.
Yeah, I can carry on. Who's going to go out? So what we've got out already. To be honest, most of what we've lost or what we've got rid of, I think we probably needed to. And we've moved out most of the quote-unquote dead wood. I think you'll probably see Joel Campbell will move. I think there's irons in the fire there. Seems like Spain is a logical destination. A lot of talk about Flamini. From all accounts, from what I can gather, he's probably going to stay now. I suppose time will tell on that one. I think with Flamini, it all depends on the player and the offer we get. I think the manager's kind of likes having him around, and obviously we know about his bromance with Ozil. I can't see any more big names going out. I think, is Gnabry still in the midst of a loan move to West Brom, possibly?
Yeah, I believe so.
I know Tony Pulis thinks very highly of him, and don't get me wrong, Pulis is a bit of a knob, but he's a very, very good coach. I would say that, and he does get the best out of players. And I think a move like that with Gnabry, I think would do him the world of good. So that will be a good one. I can't really think of any others. The only other one I can probably say Martinez, the goalkeeper, possibly. Ospina now back in full training. Obviously, they couldn't let Martinez go until Ospina came back. But if Martinez gets an offer, I'd like to see him play games, because they think, again, Geoff will probably know more than this than I do. But from what I can gather, he's thought of very highly as well in the goalkeeping department. So. So there's the other. I suppose the only other one Carl Walker's just put in the chat room actually is Thomas Rosicky. He signed a new deal, but a few people suggested that may have been the club had the option and we took up the option. That doesn't necessarily mean we won't let him move on, and we would command a fee for him having signed a new deal. I hope we don't, because he's, for me, still a top professional, and much like Mikel Arteta or even Flamini, they're thought of so highly in the dressing room. I think it'd be a massive loss to let him go. But again, with Rosicky, if he gets offered a chance to play, I don't think the manager would stand in his way, if he got that offer. But I really can't think of anyone. Feel free to ask the other guys. I can't think of anybody else we'd look to move on, really.
Long John Willington Silva.
Still at that? Yeah, very true. We'll take him for a Pirates trial, but that's about as far as he's going to go.
We should talk about the one player that we've actually sold off note, really, other than I know Miachi's moved on and Diaby's moved on. I don't really want to go into them because we all know what line that will go down. But Lucas Podolski, and Kate, I'll come to you. Around the Podolski move, Arsene Wenger apparently wanted to keep him, but couldn't offer him the football that he required. So he has moved to Galatasaray. I think it's an original payment of 1.8 million, but I think there's all kinds of stipulations, and if they make Champions League and whatnot, but that can get bumped up to, I think it was near a fee of 10 million, if I read it correctly on Sky Sports, which is, phenomenal money for Podolski himself. But are you sad to see him go?
Yeah, I'm sad to see him go. I love Podolski. But he has to do what he has to do. He's not getting any younger, and he wasn't guaranteed the games at Arsenal. He saw his opportunity to go somewhere where he could have a new challenge, have the football, and probably get the money. So, fair play to him. But yes, I'm sad he's left.
But, I mean, there was, like I said, a lot said about him staying, but maybe not getting as much game time as he wanted. Do you think that he could have done a job at Arsenal?
The trouble is, we've got such a wealth and talent in that area that I honestly don't think that, compared to some others, he was what we needed to win the league. So I guess we had to let him go. I'd have loved him to stay, but it just wasn't meant to be, and he's gone on to find fame and fortune elsewhere. No, to win titles.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think you'll all agree with me that we wish Lucas Podolski the absolute best of luck in Turkey. I mean, he's absolutely fantastic for Arsenal. We know he spent the last year of his career on loan, but he came back in the start of the season and scored some crucial goals for us. I'm thinking, was it against Galatasaray or Anderlecht? It was one of the two. But yeah, well, was it both?
Don't know. He was rubbish though. Anyway.
Yeah, he got one at, and I'm sure it's one at Anderlecht, and he got that ripper against Galatasaray. But Geoff's right overall. Yeah.
No, exactly.
Not the best.
But I mean, many will remember very much like a Bue, not much of a player, but as a dressing room character, he seemed to be the life and the soul of the party. Do you think more than his football abilities that Arsenal miss the joker in the dressing room, so to speak, Geoff?
Listen, he was fantastic on social media and stuff like that. You know, he's brilliant at PR. But you know, he's a football player, and I always had my doubts when we first signed him. You know, I said at the time I'd seen him maybe 30 odd times for his club and country, and I never ever saw or anything. I never really saw anything from him that was going to add to our squad. Don't get me wrong, great finisher of the ball, that's no problem. But we needed something a little bit better than that. And he just, at the end of the day, he didn't really make it at Arsenal. He wasn't our type of player, was he? I don't think his work rate was good enough. I don't think he was technically good enough either, to be perfectly honest with you. But you know, he did score a few goals for us, and if there was one lad you wanted the ball to drop to in the penalty box, it was definitely Lucas Podolski. But all best wishes to him, but he's not good enough for Arsenal.
And I think it should be said as well that Arsenal probably looked at it from a point of view that they were going to be paying £100,000 plus for a player that was maybe going to get 15 to 20 games a season. Really, when you look at it wage-wise, I mean, you've got all of our fans moaning that Walcott's going to be on 140, yet he's going to have a lot of game time this year. So really, it's not value for money. I think you've got to weigh up all the pros and cons in that one. And yeah, Silo, I'm not moist for Podolski. I was a fan of his because I've been a fan of Podolski for many years, but unfortunately just didn't really make the grade at Arsenal. So we'll move on to the bit that everybody's been waiting for then, and this is the possibles. We've been linked all summer with numerous amount of players. I think the big one going round at the moment is probably Benzema. Many saying he won't, that's what camp I'm in, and many saying that it seems logical that he will. I don't think any of us can deny that the talent that he possessed would make Arsenal a title challenging side. I think even Thierry Henry has come out today and said, you sign Karim Benzema, you win the league. So what's everybody make of this one? FK, you've been quiet for a bit. Karim Benzema, I bet you'd love him at Arsenal, wouldn't you?
Yeah, he's a great player. Obviously a proven player with such high pedigree. He's the real deal, isn't he? The thing about Benzema is that I don't think we need him. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that I won't. I'd be happy to have him at Arsenal than not, but I would much rather that we maybe added a little bit of depth to midfield. I think he's a great player. I think he'd obviously link up with Ozil and Sanchez and Walcott, be really exciting. He's a big game player. He's been there, done it, won it all. So yeah, absolutely, why not? I can see it happening. But I just, what can I say, Guillermo? I just think, my frustration stems from the kind of midfield element of it. Injuries at Arsenal are inevitable. I know we had a really good second half of last season, fitness-wise, but we're relying on Carcalan, who's been a revelation, to stay fit. Arteta, he is a good player, perhaps against the lesser teams. And Flamini, I think most of the Arsenal fan base want him out. He might be a bit of a scapegoat, but there's a reason for that. He's just not as good as anybody else. And with Wilshere getting the injury, Ramsey's going to pick up a niggle at some point. Sorry to be the doom and gloom, but I just wish that we could have invested in perhaps the central midfielder. I mean, there's no excuse for money, and we've seen some other players move this window. I know Vidal ended up at Bayern Munich. I know Schneiderlin's gone to United. I know they would have been expensive. There are some people who maybe think that it's probably not worth it, but you can't deny that those players would have added a bit of quality to our team. But Benzema would be a world beater. I mean, it's going to be fun watching us beat teams 7-2, 6-3. But I can't help but think we don't need him. But of course, I'll take him.
And I would say that I've done a bit of research, and I'm not going to claim it as my own. But John, who used to be on this podcast, many of you will remember him, Mr. Guna in BCN. So hello to John. He's written me up a quick thing on Benzema, and he's basically said the likelihood of him joining. Now, he's got a few points down here, so I'll read out what he's written to me. And he's put, to get Benzema, we have to convince the biggest club in the world to go into their season with no senior 9 with any experience. Second of all, we have to convince Ronaldo to move to the number 9 position, and he puts in brackets, he still isn't keen and will remain that way. And Ronaldo is not keen on Bale at the number 9 or 10 either. Number 3 is having to convince the president of Madrid to give up on his pet project. I mean, we all know that Perez and Benzema are very, very close. Number 4, having to convince the player that Arsenal is a better place for him than Madrid. Part of this is convincing the player that the club he grew up idolising and wanting to play for is not where he should be. And 5 is to pay him a minimum of 50 million quid, which is basically equates to £175,000 a week, and he's put at the bottom. If all of this happens, then we can get Benzema. In my opinion, this is improbable, not impossible, but highly improbable. Will we be over the moon to be proven wrong, though? So yeah, that's pretty much what John's saying from over there in Spain. I don't know if anyone else wants to take this one in the likelihood. Is there anybody else that would love Karim Benzema at Arsenal? I mean, I'd love him, but it's not going to happen.
I just think, I honestly do believe that for the 45 million euros or whatever it's supposed to take to get him to Arsenal, 28 years old, he's going to need maybe. I think he's that type of player that he might need 8 or 10 months or maybe a season to get the gist of the Premier League, and he's going to be 29 years old. And to give that kind of money for a 29-year-old, I don't think it's Arsene Wenger. I really don't. If he was 26, 27, he might get away with, But you are taking a chance. You've seen these big players come to the Premier League in the past and really not get to grip. I mean, the biggest one, latest one, is the kid from Angel Di Maria. He was £60 million nearly, and he's now moved back, gone to PSG because he basically he couldn't really cope with the Premier League. So it is a big gamble. I would prefer someone like Robert Lewandowski. Now there is a lad that he's got the absolute lot. He can run in behind people. He's good on the ball. He's got good technique. He can hold it up. He's a good header of the ball. He's got the age. But whether or not Bayern Munich will let him go, I don't know. But to give 45 million euros for a player, all right, of course he's going to make us. He's going to improve the squad. But is he that much better than Olivier Giroud? I'm not sure. Not for that kind of money. I know
different type of players, though, Geoff. I think it would be unfair to compare them.
Yes, of course, I totally understand that, and I agree. But at the same time, I just think I think it's too much money. I'd rather keep the money, run with what we've got, because what Arsene Wenger's done, he's realised there's a shortage of centre forwards out there that's going to get you loads and loads of goals, and he's getting the goals from all over the park. Like our game against Lyon, we have 6 different scorers. So goals was never a problem for Arsenal. It was conceding them. Now we've got Peter Cech. Our defence has played together for 2 or 3 seasons now. We've got plenty of strength, I think, in depth with regards to defensive-wise. I think we can move on and with the strikers that we got.
Yeah. Okay, and that's Geoff Arsenal's view on it, everybody. do you think it's possible that we could get someone of the same, well, I don't know whether to say value or quality? Basically, Geoff, are we in for a worldie this summer? Are we fools to expect big things, or do you think, in your professional opinion, that that's it, we're done?
I'm not quite sure. It's all. I'll tell you what worries me, or what I'm concerned about, is Manchester United are going to be in for a centre forward. There's no doubt about that. And also Chelsea. Chelsea, they've got so much money, and I know they've got Falcao on loan, and they've got Remy, and they've also got Costa, but their forward line, they're struggling a little bit, I think. Costa's, he's up in the air. He's still got this hamstring that keeps on coming back to haunt him. Remy is just off key at the moment. Falcao, I'm not sure he's ever going to get fit and score the goals that he scored when he was at Madrid before. So who's to say that someone like Benzema, if he is freed, I understand that Benitez is not 100% about him, and if there's a little bit of if he's not sure, Benzema, maybe he'll want to leave and he'll go somewhere else. But I'm worried about Man United. I still do think they're going to go in for a big striker, and so Arsenal, unfortunately, you can't have a straight fight with Man United because they've got way more money than us. They can pay another 10 or 15 million pound more than Arsenal, and they could offer another 50 grand a week more at least. So we've got to let them do their business and then see what else. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. We're not that club that can go and give someone £250,000 a week and give 50 or 60 million pound on them. I don't think we're that club yet. So we're going to have to wait and see. But it would not surprise me. It would not surprise me if Wenger pulled one out the bag before the end of the window.
Well, let's hope. Another player I've got on my list is Aubameyang, but I don't think this one really had any legs from the start. I mean, regardless of whether Arsene Wenger is a fan of his, I believe he just signed a new contract at Dortmund, and I think that's pretty much a stalemate. So we'd be going into a cul-de-sac if we tried to pick that one up. Kris, I want to go to you next. Lacazette. It seemed to be off with the chairman saying that he expected Lacazette to be at Lyon next summer, but this week there has been a little bit of a twist. I think whether Lacazette has come out and made some comments, I don't know, but I think it's kind of swinging the other way, where it's kind of coming out of France that maybe he would be open to a move. I don't know if you've heard anything similar. Can you fill us in on this one, or is it this isn't going to happen, boys?
Yeah, I'll fill you in. Again, that's also. I know Fifey wants to say something about Benzema, so if you cue him up next. But yeah, with Lacazette, I mean, let's look at the facts, right? The facts are, and I've spoken to the person I know in France about this. The truth of the matter is that he wants to stay at Lyon, and he wants to be at Lyon when they open the new stadium next season, and he wants to be in the Lyon team that goes into the Champions League and impresses. And it's the same with Nabil Fekir, who's the other one who's the starlet, the playmaker behind him. He has signed a new contract. The biggest issue that Alexandre Lacazette has is that Lyon are not particularly well off, and they are a selling club. If the right offer comes in, then Jean-Michel Aulas, the Lyon president, will look at it. So it's not really the person you need to look at is Lyon and the chairman. It's not Lacazette. Lacazette is very happy there, and the other thing you have to look at as well is at the end of this season there's the European Championships, and it's in France. Lacazette wants to lead the line for France. There's three possible options up front at the moment. There's Giroud, there's Benzema, and there's Lacazette. They are the main three that France are looking to pick from. There will be others that will happen over the season. Obviously, injuries and whatnot can play a factor, but Lacazette wants to lead the line for France, and I genuinely think that he knows if he stays at Lyon, he'll play every game. He'll probably score as many as he did last season. He was the top scorer in the French league last season, and he was only behind Messi and Cristiano for the top scorer in Europe. So the guy is class, and he's as close, as I've said before, to a young Thierry Henry as I've ever seen. And I genuinely think that when he gets the big move, he will explode. The biggest issue is money, and I agree with Geoff 100%. I think Man City are the ones you've got to watch in this, because they've shifted Dzeko, they've shifted Jovetic, They need a striker. Wilfried Bony is not good enough at the top level. Simple as that. You know, he's a decent striker. He was good for Swansea, but he's not a Manchester City centre forward. Kun Aguero is. The guy's world class, but they haven't got backup. And my concern is that Lacazette fits the profile for what they're looking for. They've got Sterling on one side. Lacazette can easily play anywhere across the front three. And Man City have got oodles of cash. So, you know, is Arsene Wenger keen on Lacazette? Probably. Does he like him as a player? Probably. Does he know everything about him? Almost certainly. But I don't think, if it comes down to a bidding war, that we're going to pay the sort of money it's going to cost to get him out of Lyon. And for the record, that's probably going to be upwards of 50 million at least. And then we've got the rest on top. So I don't think it's going to happen. And also, just very quickly on the Benzema thing, 4 people have said about Benzema. Wenger said no. Benitez has said no. His agent has said no, and he has said no. I think the only way that's going to happen is, as Geoff said, I think Man United's more likely. And it's a classic Arsene Wenger move. Everyone's talking about Benzema. I wonder what else he's up to, because I don't think he would be even entertaining the quotes if he had a serious interest.
No, that's very true. I understand that back when we signed Santi Cazorla, 3 days before we actually signed the player, he maintained in a press conference he didn't have a clue who he was. So, you know, he's a shrewd old dog, is Arsene Wenger. So I guess the saying is never say never. Kate, I'm going to come to... No, actually, Andrew. Of course, it's all go, isn't it? Andrew, I want to come to you next because I know you've got something to say on the Benzema point before we move on to Marco Reus.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a WrestleMania moment here. I know, Geoff, you're the people's champion. You're the rock of the Arsenal podcasting world, and so I'm calling you out. I'm going to be the heel. I just want to, I mean, listen, I completely disagree actually on the Benzema point. I think 45 million euros. He's a guy that's 31 million pounds. 31 million pounds today is for a world-class striker. I don't think is anything. I think he's, you know, we spoke about his age. He's 27 years old. If you give him a 5-year contract and now amortize the value of that contract over the length of the contract, we'd only need to sell him for 6.2 million when he's 31 years old to make a book value profit on him. So from a financial perspective, I don't think there's that much risk. He's the kind of guy, you know, in 1 year's time, if we sell him for 24.8 million, we make a profit on him technically. If we sell him in 2 years' time for 18.6 million when he's 29, we make a profit on him. So, you know, I think he's the kind of guy. He's a world-class player who's proven himself at the top level. And when I say he's proven himself, that's one big deficit in our team. If you look at the Arsenal squad, realistically, there's only one proven centre forward in that team, and that's Olivier Giroud. And if you take him out, we're taking gambles and we're taking risks. Walcott's not a proven centre forward. Welbeck's proven that he isn't, you know, good enough. Well, Welbeck's never proven himself at the top level, and Sanchez has proven he's a winger come striker, but he's never proven himself as a true number 9. So if we pick up an injury to Giroud, you know, we're kind of lacking there. Remember, you know, our form in the first half of last season, you know, we dropped a bollock last summer when we didn't sign a centre forward. All the fans wanted one. And we said, well, there's not a centre forward out there, so we got Sanchez as a striker, which was a great sign. And don't get me wrong, but it wasn't until Giroud broke his ankle against Everton that we rushed out and we bought Danny Welbeck and we spent 16 million on him. And let's be honest, we haven't seen much value. You know, he scored that goal at Old Trafford and a couple of goals here and there, but it really was a bit of a panic signing, and we still haven't addressed that centre forward position. And, you know, my real concern is if we don't bring in, you know, someone of top quality who can battle with Giroud for that position, we might suffer again. You know, our form at the start of the season was poor last year. There was a stat this morning went out that when Jack Wilshere played last year, we only won 22% of games, and when he didn't play, we won 69%. And I think a lot of people were saying that was down to, you know, the fact that we were so poor in the first half of the season, and you know, injury. You know, we weren't firing on all cylinders. And if Giroud takes an injury, you know, it's going to be a huge loss to us if we don't bring in a natural number 9. Because otherwise we're going to have to change the shape of our squad, the way in which we play. And so I don't think, you know, we can't be relying on make-dos and makeshifts. We've got the money there in the bank. A 27-year-old proven goal scorer at the top level. France's number 9, you know, he's an international, world-class, renowned striker. If it takes him, you know, a bit of time to settle in, fine. We've got Giroud who can lead the line for now. But, you know, looking at the finances, £31 million, I think, is a snip for someone of his quality.
I tend to agree with most of what you say. The problem is, you know, to get a player like Benzema away from Real Madrid, we're going to have to offer him something around about £200,000. Now, that going amongst all the rest of the players that we've got in the squad. I mean, maybe Ozil's on £150,000. He might be getting 160 on bonuses and stuff like that. But that's top heavy. Arsenal to then go and give £200,000. They're all going to be banging on the door like Ozil, and the other players are going to be coming in for a little bit of an uplift. And I still don't think although we've got plenty of money, we haven't got that money that Chelsea and Man United have got and Man City have got. That's my only grumble with that. It's quite clear that Arsene Wenger does want to sign a striker. He tried to sign Suarez. He tried to sign Higuain. He's out there looking for a striker, but he won't compromise. He will eventually get a player that he wants, but they're very difficult to come across. Everyone's looking for the same thing. Everyone wants a 30 goal a season striker. They're just very, very hard to get. Do we want to give 200 grand for Karim Benzema? I don't think he'd want to upset the apple cart. We've got a great core squad there. They're all believing in themselves. They really think they can go on. It would be great to get a top quality striker in, but I think you might lose a little bit if again you're waiting for Benzema, if he does come in, to mould into the team, and you're hoping for him to hit the ground running because he is running out of time.
And I think being on Twitter, and all of us, we all use Twitter on a daily basis. We've seen the hysteria around the Benzema move, and it's been very, very difficult to not get caught up in it. It's one of those things. It's Twitter at summer. We will move on to a load of other players. Well, not a load of other players. I've got 3 more really written down here, but we are running out of time, seeing as we have been on for an hour and 45 minutes. I know Danny's having real trouble with his microphone, so I'm yet to hear whether he's going to play a part in the rest of this, so you do have our apologies. I'll go over to Kate next. Kate, if you're Arsene Wenger and you're looking at this team at the moment, where do you see us strengthening? Where would you like us to strengthen? Do you have any names of anyone that you would like to see come in, or do you think that there's anywhere in our squad where we're particularly weak?
Don't necessarily think we're particularly weak anywhere, but I would like to see a striker. Probably not that elusive 30-goal-a-season striker, because I don't think necessarily they exist anymore. Benzema, I'd like to see him at Arsenal. Can't see it happening. Lacazette, would also like to see him at Arsenal.
Lewandowski?
Yeah, Lewandowski's a good player. I'd take him at Arsenal if I couldn't have Benzema. But no, I don't know. I don't really think I hold too many hopes of players to sign, because I just wait and see who he's actually going to sign at the end of the season. I didn't consider Alexis Sanchez before we signed him, and it was a nice surprise when we did. So I'm all for surprises.
Yeah, exactly. We'll do a 2-in-1 next, and it's Bayern Munich we travel to, and the names I pick out my magic hat are Lewandowski and Götze. It seems to me like Guardiola is kind of ruffling a few feathers at Bayern. There's a couple of the old boys there that seem to have got their nose put out of joint. I know there's been talks of a rift between Muller and Guardiola. I know Lewandowski has been accused of maybe not living up to where he should possibly be at this time, or not being given the chances. Even coming up to today, I know that Mario Götze has come out and said that he hopes to get more chances at Bayern Munich. He doesn't know where his future lies, and he feels maybe a little bit undervalued, but he hasn't said that in so many words. So FK, over to you. Lewandowski and Götze, can you see either of them happening, or should I say, do you think Bayern would even sell those players, being so short into contracts?
At the moment, I can't see Lewandowski leaving Bayern Munich. I think he is a wonderful player. and he is probably one of the best number 9s in the world, and he'd be brilliant at Arsenal. But I think that ship has sailed. He's gone to Bayern Munich, one of the biggest clubs in the world. I just can't see him going unless there's a almighty fallout between him and the manager, or if he just gets bored. Goetz is an interesting one. Arsenal had a lot of interest in him a couple of years ago. Obviously, again, sort of followed the followed the big club kind of lights, and went to Bayern Munich, and he's a bit out of sorts there, but he's young, and Pep Guardiola is an excellent manager, so I think he probably will end up staying. If he were to leave, he'd be quite expensive, and again, he'd be a wonderful player to have at Arsenal. I think looking outside of those two, I know you've just asked me those Gim, but Julian Draxler's another interesting one. He's been touted, he's been sort of offered around 17, 18 million pounds, which if you consider we were interested in making a move when he was about 35 million pounds worth, it's half the price, so he could be one to watch. But the first two that you've mentioned, I just can't see Lewandowski leaving, I'm afraid. You?
No, I don't think that Bayern would even entertain Lewandowski leaving. And as for Goetze, I don't think that they'll want to get rid of him either. Both are quality players, some of the best in their positions, and Bayern Munich aren't a selling club. So I don't think it's going to happen either.
You know what's really interesting? You talk about Benzema, you're going to talk about Royce, you talk about Lewandowski. It would be so Arsenal to go into a season risking success on possible injuries to a central midfield where we're a little bit short defensively, and just blow your wad on a top class centre forward who you could argue that we don't actually need. It would just be so Arsenal. But either way, the big man knows what he's doing. He's on the right path, and I'm sure he'll do what's right for the club.
I do think it's funny how we came into the transfer window going, we came into the winter transfer window going, we need a defensive midfielder. It seemed like that was the word that I was probably saying every other sentence, defensive midfielder. But now everyone's like kind of clamouring for a striker, and it seems to be the forgotten position. Like Coquelin's going to come in and absolutely do the business again this year, which I think he will do. However, I think the main concern for a lot of people, and I know it's a worry for some of our fans, is that if Coquelin gets injured, then maybe we might be up shit creek without a paddle with Arteta and Flamini as cover. We all know that at Arsenal we are susceptible to injuries. I think we'd all be naive if we went into a season expecting a fully fit squad all season. We all know that that's never going to happen. But yeah,
look at the pundits as well, Gim. Like very briefly, everyone said at the start of last season that Arsenal were a centre forward, a goalkeeper, and a midfielder short of winning the title. And yet, fast forward to summer, we've got a world-class goalkeeper, and a lot of big names in the football world are calling us favourites for the title, along with Chelsea. And all we have added is a goalkeeper. So it's funny how times change. It's not just how much we've strengthened with Peter Cech, it's how weak other teams have got. And I think Geoff made the point earlier on. Chelsea are definitely short. I think Man City have, they've shipped a few out, and they've brought in a few, decent players, but nothing that would make you sit up and go, wow. Liverpool won't be close in my opinion. Spurs, whatever. And Man United, okay, they've strengthened, but they've taken a lot of gambles. So we've kept a group together, a core group, and if we add one more, all the better. But if we don't, I think we're in a good spot.
But I think a lot of that, Kris, is down to Ozil is starting to show the kind of form that he should be showing for a £40 million player. Oxlade-Chamberlain is maturing with every game and getting better with every game. This time last season, if you said Bellerin would be our right back, I think many people would have probably scoffed at you. So there's progression within the team in all positions, and it might not be buying players in, but it's players coming through and taking that chance. And, to quote Le Prof, it's kind of like a new signing, and if we could have hoped for a Bellerin, if we could have hoped for a Oxlade-Chamberlain like he's playing at the moment on the right-hand side, if we can hope for a fully fit Theo Walcott. Giroud seems to get better with every year that passes of him wearing an Arsenal shirt, and I think it's the gradual progression within this team that, like Geoff said, 2015 would be our year. I know the big man's popped off for 5 minutes, but you know,
I'm still here, Kim. Don't worry, I'm listening, mate.
You're still there, but no, Geoff, I take off my hat to you. I think you were absolutely spot on with, like I said, the youngsters coming through, the big names that we've signed, the players actually coming good, and like as Kris said, the just having that core of players that are bonded. I mean, you've seen the team spirit on the Asia Tour, Community Shield, whatever you want to call it. I mean, they look like they're the best of friends, and that there's an absolutely blinding team spirit. That accounts for an awful lot within a team, or for me it does anyway. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll move on from transfer now because we have covered that. But we'll go into the home straight of the podcast, so only another 20 minutes from us left, guys, and we're going to do our expectations for this season. Kate, I'll come to you first. If we go into the season with just Cech as a summer signing, do we have enough to challenge?
Yes, we do. I know I said it last season, but I'm going into the season positive. I think Petr Cech is going to make a lot of difference to the team from what we had last season, even if that's saving goals or giving the team that bit of stability at the back that we've missed. But yeah, I'm excited for the season. I think we can challenge, and a few more cups maybe would be nice.
Yeah, well, it's okay to dream, isn't it? To get an FA Cup for a third year running would, I think that would send most of our fans into dreamland. But I'll go through these questions, and each and every one of you can have a stab at a question. So, Kris, the next question comes to you, and it is, where, if anywhere, is the team weak?
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go against the norm because I personally don't think we are weak in the central midfield area. And if anyone wants to call me out on that, that's fair enough. And please don't say the word DM. Oh God. Where are we weak? I mean, arguably, I'd like to see a wide forward, but that has a lot of caveats. I mean, if Theo Walcott is going to be a striker, let's put it that way, then I'd like another wide forward. I'd like somebody who can has a bit more of a physical presence. We've talked before about Julian Draxler type of player, somebody who's just got that little bit of speed, but that little bit of size, almost like how Mesut's built himself up, that little bit more size and bulk and height, rather than one of these sort of tricky, intricate wingers. I'd like to see somebody with a bit more heft from a wide forward position. That's the only place I can really think. I'm quite happy with the centre backs. The full backs speak for themselves. If you're thinking about if a genuine world-class striker comes up, and we can go, I mean, for my 10 pence worth, I think Lewandowski would have an absolute field day in the Premier League with the supply line that we have. I think he would bang in goals for fun. I think if you could get a player like him, or indeed we've said about Benzema, if he did become available, I'd like to think that our club would be sniffing around there. If you can get one of those world-class quote-unquote centre forwards, then I think you'd be mad not to pull the trigger on it. I'll leave the money to Andrew. He knows more than I do about that. But if we've got the money there, I'd like to see us to put that investment and make a statement as much as anything. But that's only dependent on Theo, drifting back wide again. If Theo is going to be a central striker, then for me, the only area I'd like to see is a wide forward. If Flamini goes, that's the only time. Then I would say, okay, maybe let's get another central midfielder to back up the first choice 3 or 4. And I say 3 or 4 because too many people seem to think that the only player that we've got in that position is Francis Coquelin. That's utter rubbish. The guy's fantastic and he did brilliantly last season, but if people seriously think that he's going to be the only player that Arsene Wenger trusts in that position in the season ahead, you're kidding yourself. Whatever you think of Mikel Arteta, the guy is class, the guy's a pro, he's the club captain, he's brilliant in the dressing room. The only thing with Mikel is keep him fit, and if he's got legs alongside him, don't get me wrong, I don't think he could play holding role with Santi Cazorla, but I think if you put an Aaron Ramsey next to him or a fit Jack Wilshere next to him, I don't think you'll have any issue playing Mikel Arteta in that role at all. And let's be honest, Coquelin's made of bricks, he'll play every game anyway.
Right then, next question goes to Andrew. As many of you will probably have read, Alisher Usmanov has come out and said that we are one player short. Andrew, do you agree with that? And what's with the timing of his statements? He seems to come out around the right time when there was an increase in ticket prices. He had to put his 2 pence into that, and now he's come out today, and it is seemingly he makes statements which adhere to a lot of what the fans think. I mean, if you ask any Arsenal fan, they would probably say they'd love to have another signing at the club, or for Arsenal to make another top-class signing this season. So what do you make of Usmanov and his comments? Oh, not another one.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, sorry. Coming directly to Usmanov, you're right. He is a PR man in the sense, but of course he is. He's a solid investor, and if you look at the timing of his comments, they usually coincide with the second half of the summer transfer window. We've seen the open letter to the club after the Van Persie saga. He came out the year after when we had the Ozil summer when he challenged the board and said they weren't competent in signing players. Yeah, it always seems to be, and that's kind of expected in the sense that fans always it's when the fans are at the most itchy in terms of we want new signings, we're obviously on edge. He must be, or his team are fully aware it's at the point when the fans are obviously most likely going to be questioning or challenging the board in terms of showing ambition. Throughout the season, obviously when we have hard times and we've had poor form, he's come out as well. But at this point, it's quite easy to galvanise the fans because the fans are in a state of frenzy, wanting players, and so it is a good trick. And in some senses, I agree with him. In others, I don't. So coming back to the original question is with this squad, can we now challenge? And I think actually for the first time in a very long time, I think that we can challenge. If we're being completely blunt and honest here, guys, we haven't challenged at the top level now for about a decade. We've been there or thereabouts, but we've never been a true contender for the title. We've always been going for fourth, sometimes third, but we've never ever been a true threat. And I think now we're actually at that stage where we're up there with Chelsea and City, maybe slightly behind, but we can certainly actually, I think, feel we can now mount a challenge for the title. What Usmanov for me is saying, we're one player away from winning the league, and that one player for me, I said it earlier, is Karim Benzema, or a world-class centre forward who's going to score 30 Premier League goals. If we have that one player, the league, I think, is ours. We have, and I don't think it's right to say that Chelsea only have one strike centre forward, Man U only have one centre forward, City only have one centre forward. We're Arsenal Football Club. Our strategy shouldn't be that we rely on getting fewer injuries in them and hoping their strikers get injured when ours don't. We should be bringing in the best centre forwards in world football. We've had in recent years Thierry Henry, Anelka, Bergkamp, Canoe, Wiltord, Suka. We've had an absolute periphery of top class, world class centre forwards, and that's one player which can make or break, whether we win the league or not. I think we will challenge if we do or don't bring in a centre forward. But if we really want to push on in the Premier League and in Europe and make a statement, that's where I think we need to be spending the cash that we have. And I do think, whilst Kris makes some very salient points there around midfield, I will still like to see us bring in one more central midfielder, not necessarily someone who's out and out proven world class, but someone who will give some assurance to that and some stability. If you look at recent years gone by, our successful squads, I think it was the 2001-2002 team. In central midfield we had options like Gilberto. That was the year after. The 2002, 2003, then 2003, 2004. We had Ray Parlour could play centre midfield, Edu could play centre midfield, Van Bronckhorst could play centre midfield, Vieira could play there, Gilberto could play there if needed. So it's always good to have quality and in depth. I think we can't, if Coquelin gets injured for a certain period of time, we can't rely on Arteta's fitness, and we can't rely on the mental stability of Flamini to make an extended run. So I think one player in there who would be maybe a step up on those two, but maybe someone who would help push Coquelin as well would be good to see. So like we know, we brought in Gabriel in January, someone who kind of came into and is now a solid third choice centre back. He's given time to Chambers to develop. Someone of that ilk who can come in and maybe kind of sit in terms of the pecking order in between Coquelin and then Arteta and Flamini for that holding midfield role. Don't get me wrong, I still think Arteta offers value to the team, but I'd much rather see him have a little bit more of a loose, free position to kind of start the tempo rather than block the opposition. But if we're going to go out there and make a statement, and if I'm reading Usmanov right, it definitely has to be for me a world-class centre forward, and that's the only way we're going to be truly winning the league. Outright favourites. But as it stands, we are contenders, and I think we will challenge. But if we really want to make a statement there and in Europe, let's go out and spend the big bucks.
Yeah, very true. Geoff, I know you've got to leave us now. I do apologise, this has run on far later than we could have ever imagined. So just before you go, I know you want to give a big shout out to the Rev himself, Mr. Raj Patel. Is it at Raj Patel 1809 on Twitter? And give a bit of a shout out to the Bootleg Beatles auction. Okay. Geoff, are you there? Okay, we will move on then.
Taking the dogs for a walk. Literally, not metaphorically, before you sexual people out there.
Okay then. Right, we will carry on then, and this is literally 10 minutes left, guys. I want to know whereabouts you think we're going to do, or what we're going to do in each competition. So I'll run through each of you individually. I want where you think we're going to finish in the league, what we're going to do in the Champions League, how far we're going to get in the FA and League Cups. FK, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, I think Premier League-wise, I think we can win the league title. Not sure we will. I think Chelsea will probably just edge us again. It depends, though, on what happens in the next 3 weeks of the transfer window. I think it's a little bit premature to make predictions. I know it's all in the name of having fun, but there's so much to change. I mean, United are going to lose David De Gea. They lost Di Maria today. Chelsea looking at a left back. Man City, I mean, are they done spending? So there's a long way to go, but I really do fancy us for a top 2 this year in the Premier League. FA Cup, let's win it. 3 wins on the spin. Why not? It's our cup. Feels like our stadium 6 times in the last 14 months. Let's go out there and get it done. The League Cup, I can't see Wenger taking that too seriously. I think it will be youngsters mixed with a few senior players, lots of rotation, and I think it's just dependent on the draw. If we can escape some of the big boys in the early rounds, and you never know, we might end up at Wembley. Champions League, it's an interesting one. I mean, we're definitely not the strongest club in the competition. Far from it. I think Barcelona, Bayern and Real Madrid are just on a different planet to everybody else. But, the best team doesn't always win. So in that sense, if we can have a good group stage this year, you never know how far we can get. But there's just no guarantee. So I wouldn't say that we were anywhere near the favourites for that.
No. Fantastic analysis. Kate, over to you next. Where are we going to do in the League, Champions League, FA Cup and League Cup?
I think we can challenge for the title, like FK, but I, again, think probably second. FA Cup, I think we can win it again. Champions League, definitely quarters, possibly semis. League Cup, again, we can win that one. I'm quite positive. I like to try and go into the season a bit positive. So, yes, we can definitely challenge for all the cups we're going for.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. Andrew?
Hello.
Where do you think we're going to do League, Champions League, FA Cup and League Cup?
League, I think, will come... Well, if the squad remains as it is, I think we'll come second. If the squad remains as it is, Champions League, quarterfinals. FA Cup, I don't see why we can't go and win it 3 times in a row and make history. And League Cup, it's in the balance. It's one of those. If the kids perform, the kids perform. If they don't. So I'd say quarterfinals, but realistically, it's kind of irrelevant. But the big one, if we go out and sign Karim Benzema, I don't see why we won't win the league and push right to the end of the Champions League.
Okay, Kris.
Sam, I don't really want to take a break from the norm. I genuinely think that we can, and I think we will, win the Premier League this year. Really, really do. There's a variety of factors that, I'll just be repeating what others have said, so I won't sort of bang on for a change. But yeah, I do think we can compete in the Premier League, and I do fancy us to win it. I said we'd finish third last year, and we finished third. So hey, aren't I Johnny Know-It-All? Champions League I'll go with next. I think we'll get further than we have done for a while. I do think we're just a little bit short. Champions League, the other trouble with that is a lot of it comes down to luck, whether that be injuries, whether that be opposition, whether it be just literally, it can be the bounce of a ball. It's a cup competition. Anything can happen. I'd back us to get quarterfinals. Beyond that, I think might be a step too far, but you never know. FA Cup, 100% with FK. Let's break records. Let's do it again. We fancy it. We've got a good reputation and a good run in that FA Cup now. I think it means a lot to the players. Again, luck of the draw, etc. But we put out some pretty decent sides last year, so let's go and win it again. And Capital One Cup, I think it's all about, again, echoing FK, it's all about getting a few of the players a run. It might be nice to see J-Ra and co rip it up. If we get a few lower league sides, I think you'll see some really young players, which would be good for the club. So for that, I'll say quarterfinals.
Fantastic. That's everybody, isn't it? Or have we missed anybody? Okay, so right then. Basically, we've just simply run out of time for listener questions tonight. I do apologise. We will be taking more next week. So get your questions into @the AFC podcast. And basically, if you get your questions in before 6 o'clock in the evening, you stand a pretty good chance of getting them read out. Unfortunately, this is the start of the season podcast, and there's just been so much to get through. But I hope you've enjoyed it. So now we're going to end this then with some predictions. And we've got predictions for West Ham. So, Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
I predict that I'm going to be extremely drunk and unfortunately will miss the game, so I'm in Budapest on a stag do. But I think we're going to win 3-0.
Okay, fantastic. And I should just say that Danny has pitched in as well, and I did promise to read his. Danny thinks we're going to finish first in the Premier League. He thinks we're going to win the FA Cup. He thinks we're going to make the quarter-final in the League Cup, and he thinks we're going to make the Champions League semi-final. And he put under that, read mine, you pigs. So there you go, Danny. That's yours. Right then, next up, I would say, Danny, for your prediction, you write yours in the chat box and I'll read it out to everybody. But Kate, next.
I'm going 3-0 and Walcott to score first.
Danny has just put exactly the same thing. 3-0 Walcott. Oh, he even gets shitty in the chat box. 4-0 then. I can hear him saying it. Geoff's gone. FK?
I fancy us to beat West Ham. I can't imagine it would be too crazy. I'll go for 2-0 Walcott first goal scorer.
Okay, fantastic. Kris?
Echo Dom's thoughts on this one. I expect us to start fast, start strong, and I think we'll do quite well in the first few weeks of the season. I'll go 3-1 Ramsey.
Oh, fuck you. I said 3-1 Walcott.
Sorry, I'd see it as, wouldn't be surprised if we went behind because it's so Arsenal, but yeah, I see us being fairly comfortable.
I was debating whether to ask FK back because he kept nicking my predictions every week. I'd have won that predictions league first year if I didn't have to keep pissing around changing it about because someone nicked it. FK, Jesus. And now you've come back and, Budget Jesus has nicked my prediction.
I can read your mind, that's what it is.
Oh, Jesus.
You just have to go first, Gim. That's the only change you got to make. Go first.
Danny's got a message for you there, Gim, in the on his camera. Ginger Welsh Minge, I believe that says.
Yeah, all I've got is woof, mine, you, mong, oi, you, oi, mong, ginger fuck, 3-0 Walcott, 4-0 then.
Oh no, he actually wrote it and put it on his camera. He actually wrote a sign. And it says, so there you go, let's put it up again. Ginger Welsh Minge, there you go.
Lovely stuff. It sounds like he's got my number. Right then. Kris, it's over to you next.
For...
Oh, yeah, you've done your...
I've just done it.
It's absolutely all got it. That's Danny, that is. I wish you'd just fuck off. Right, shout-outs. I'm going to go first. My first shout-out is at Gareth Ponting. He's a Welsh gooner who me and Kate know down here. We sold we've actually sold 2 of our early kits to. But he's absolutely charming fella. So go and give him a follow. He is at Gareth Ponting on Twitter. It will be the best follow you make today. So quickly, fellas. Kris, you first. Who's yours?
Cool. Just 2 quickies. One is Pirates related. One is personal. When we did the draw, we did a little bit of a fun one, and we said whoever comes out of the hat gets a shout out on the podcast. And it turned out it was the person that actually donated the highest value. I won't embarrass him by saying how much he donated, but it was a significant amount. And that is to Richard Adams, who is at Trickya25, TRICKYA25. So thank you, Richard. You know how much you gave us, and we really appreciate it. Cheers, mate. And the other one is to the First Lady of ABW, and indeed Full 90 Gunapod, and that is Kat in Chicago. Catherine, she is at Koi Gooners Girl, which is, hang on, I'll get it right because I always get this run wrong. Sorry, bear with me. It's at COY Gooners Girl. She's an absolute star. She's offered to do some work for the podcast with regards to the graphic design as well, which I'll inform you of later again. But breaking news. And yeah, she was excellent on the radio show, and do check out their podcast as well because it's very good.
And from one ABW First Lady to another ABW First Lady, Kate, your shout out, please.
I'm going to be greedy. I've got 2. My first one is to Luca K, whose Twitter name is at dream_shake, because I put a tweet out earlier asking who should get my shout out, and he was the first one to reply. So, Luca, you get my shout out. And my second one is because someone messaged me to say that I should give my shout out to Pat Jennings because it's the 38th anniversary of him signing for us. So, and I thought, good enough reason, so that's my shout-outs.
Fantastic shout-outs. FK, because Danny's not here or hear in voice, some might say it's a dream come true. It's a wonderful day for ABW. If you'd like to finish us off.
Yeah, I would like to say a special hello to my boy Lawrence. He is at Lozia, Lozia, travels a ridiculous amount of miles every week to watch the Arsenal, a proud member of the latte firm Block 9 Ultras, and Arsene Wenger's biggest fan. So, hey Loz, and give him a follow.
Can I apologise to Kate again, very quickly? Yeah. Sorry, Kate. When I said the First Lady of ABW, I meant to say the First Lady of ABW Radio. So, Kate, I am on my knees in apology for you. I do apologise, my love.
That's all right. I forgive you, Kris.
Thank you.
Can I just out there? Sorry, Gimli. You just said FK was going to finish us off, and then Kris on his knee. Kate.
So go back to FK, please.
And Danny's topless. Listeners, this isn't some weird, introduction to a porn film.
And I've still got to get a shout out from you, Park 5.
My shout out is for the listeners. They've worked the long-awaited summer's over, and I've been reading the comments tonight. There's been a lot of brawling. There's been a lot of Benzema talk, where they've been fantastic, and they've tuned in quite literally their hundreds. So the shout-outs to each and every single one of you, all 276 of you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. If you like this format or this concept of the way we record the show, then send us tweets to @the AFC podcast, and we'll see if we can't do a few more throughout the season. It is a slightly more difficult way of doing it, but the opportunity to interact with each and every one of you, and for you to get involved live in the show, is fantastic, and we really, really enjoy it. So yeah, let us know if you want to see more of these. I think that is about it. I will say goodbye from Danny, who unfortunately wasn't able to close the show with us, and also goodbye from Mr. GA. Thank you so much to all of the panelists tonight. It's lovely to have you here joining me and Danny for this season, and let's hope for a successful season under Arsenal. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and keep it Arsenal. Good night.
You cheeky monkeys.
No cheeky monkey bitches.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Fuck off.
5. Oh, 5.
Gimli, I've